All right. And we are live. The Last Word with Lord Cognito and Ebontis. Friday evening campfire. What is going on, sir? How we doing?
I'm doing good. I've got a dog recovering from surgery, so going to be working with that one over the evening. And before we get going too far, I did want to say one thing to start this off on a serious note because it does need to be done. I just want to read the very start of the TWAB due to the events that happened this week.
Sure.
So just to let you guys aware before we get into anything else. They started the TWAB well, so I'm going to start with that. We want to start this TWAB off by speaking about the tragic events from earlier this week. The violence against the Asian American community in Atlanta wasn't an isolated event. Hate crimes against Asian Americans have recently surged across major cities in the U.S. over the last year. Everyone at Bungie stands with the Asian community during this difficult time, and our hearts go out to the victims of this senseless act of violence and their families. One of our goals is to continue to build communities around our games where everyone feels safe to be who they are and free to build friendships without the fear of hate or discrimination. Please join us in making a donation to aid efforts to help provide a recovery and support and advocacy to those in need. To donate, they've got a link. It's imreadymovement.org, and it's just to help all the Asian American communities that you can, if you can support, cool. Biggest thing I just want to say, community, please just try and be decent to each other. That's all I'm asking. So I wanted to start there. Sorry to start it on a somber note, but I didn't feel we should get into all the crazy that's going to come in the future without addressing that one. So
yeah, respect, definitely. Obviously, we can't ignore what's going on in real life. So I'm actually glad you mentioned it because this has been bothering me this week too. So thank you, brother, for putting some levity and putting some reality in the world right now. What's going on? Let's be decent to each other.
Yep.
Do unto others what you want others to do unto you.
Factual.
Immanuel Kant. Basically, treat others the way you want to be treated.
There you go. That's
the golden rule.
Brotherhood and sisterhood. Anyway, let's try to lighten up a little bit, but welcome to The Last Word, episode 141. And it's Glorious Friday. We're back in front of the campfire for some more looter shooter discussion. I'm extremely excited about our special guest, so we're going to get right into it. I want to introduce a Lord who is not only an awesome friend to the campfire of The Last Word, but whose highly technical yet efficient approach to the game of Destiny is easily reflected with his massive triumph score. Introducing one of the most dedicated and highly decorated title members within our Destiny community and a member of Clan Concerned, the Lord of IT and Mario Kart, and our favorite reoccurring warlock every 21 episodes.
Blackjack!
Live from Cali and making his return into the campfire of The Last Word, my man, Lord TeasingTeddy. How we doing, sir?
Man, I live for those intros. I kid you not. Sometimes when I walk around the lake around the park near my house, and I ponder the mysteries of the universe and everything, I think about these intros sometimes. It really just hits me. I'm serious. I'm not kidding. Like, I know I'm kind of being, I'm kind of going out there, but like seriously, like it's such a nice feeling. And so thank you for having me again. This is always fun, and I'm in a good mood. I'm good. I'm happy to talk about Destiny right now and just chat with you guys. It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Always a pleasure to have you. Always, and I speak to E. We always talk about it. Like we love doing them. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things. We got to celebrate the people in the community who we appreciate. You have been such a huge supporter, a cool guy. We've met in person. You know what I mean? You family. So it's just like you still got to get it. You still got to get the brunch. You got to put the good food out, the good cutlery. It's like families in here. So I got to treat you right, man. We're good to have you, brother.
Appreciate it. That being said, I've got to interrupt.
Oh, what's going on?
I'd like to introduce another fine gentleman to the campfire this evening. This man was gaming as soon as he could hold a controller. Nintendo and PlayStation both had their use, but Xbox is when the game changed. A diehard Halo fan honed his shooter skills, and some Elder Scrolls shaped him into a true role player. With those powers combined, Destiny was inevitable. So, let's welcome a man of excellent taste, as all Titans have. A man who has been podcasting since the days of the Word of the Nerd over 10 years ago. Woo. He will give you an insightly look into your business marketing strategies, and we all know he'd rather be writing game reviews. Hailing from Mary Park Hall and a Gator alum, online personality on the rise, an expert on all things Star Wars, Fast and Furious wiki editor, and true lord of his realm, the one and the only man who actually suited up for life, TieGuyTravis McClunky. How are you doing, sir?
What up, nerds? How you doing?
How you gonna crash the party?
Damn.
How I
All
do?
right, well, it was a good show. I guess I'm out. That's it.
Yeah, like Teddy it was
That
nice.
was good.
You
You
know.
know, it's fine. I get it.
You had a good run, buddy.
Yeah, it was.
I
It
like
was
your
fine.
background there. It looks like the last place that I'll ever see if I come over to your house.
My room is very special, but you're only seeing like a tenth of it. So
What is that? You got a workshop or something over there?
it's a bunch of Star Wars Legos. I own every Star Wars Lego from '98 to 2010, I think.
A man after my own heart.
Yes.
Let's try
And then
not to kiss too early. in the
That's
show.
that's Mario Kart right there. That's the one a
there
friend
it is.
signed.
The framed one, yeah.
Yeah.
McClunky's in the rep. What? At the campfire? This is gonna be crazy. Little special-
I talked about this with Travis a little while back. I was like, I knew Teddy was coming on, and I've seen those two talk on Twitter. I was like, all right, I know you guys are gonna be friends. What's going on? So then I was like, do you want to like surprise drop into the? And he's like,
Oh,
yes,
that's great.
yes,
That's
we
great.
got to do this.
So screw Destiny. We're just talking about Star Wars now, right? Like it's,
Yes. Yes.
This is
we
a
are.
Star Wars
like
podcast.
change
all night
the
long.
title. Yeah.
McClunky.
Yeah.
Listen, man,
McClunky.
McClunky's in the building. But also, so we got to talk, since McClunky's in the building, we also have to talk Mass Effect. I'm prepping you for our Mass Effect 1 versus 2 debate, sir. It's very hot and heavy, man. The competition is fierce. I need another. Teddy, what side of history are you on, sir? I just need to ask this.
So I've never actually played Mass Effect.
Me neither.
But
There we go.
hold on. So in high school, which I graduated in 2012 when Mass Effect 3 came out.
Okay, well, there you go.
So two of my friends were really, really into it at the time. And we had this garage at one of my friends' houses that had like 7 TVs and every console and everything. Whatever. I'm a nerd, so I set it all up. And I watched them play through all 3 Mass Effects probably like 5 times. So I'm relatively aware of like this. I get the general gist of it. I don't remember like everything, but I kind of know. Mass Effect 1 sucks just by watching it. Like that game should exist. And then two I think is the best of the 3, and then 3 I just know the ending was like terrible, but that's kind of all I got. I'll replay them when they re-release them. I like the universe a lot. I like the lore and the story. So
No doubt. All right, we're gonna keep you right now on the bench though, because they're gonna try to come at you and say, "Well, he didn't play." And they're like, "I need the connoisseurs of the connoisseur, because who we're going up against right now on the side of Mass Effect 1 is pretty scary." But I got my man TieGuyTravis. We lit. I got my man Slow-Mo. I got some serious historians, some connoisseurs. We got random, but we need one more because we're a man down. They literally just got ACG right now. ACG's on the side of Mass Effect 1. I'm like, oh,
I think it's just the gameplay, honestly. Like the gameplay is just so dated.
Yes.
That I think, and they're fixing that, right? I think in the new one. So I think if they fix that, I think that game will be the best of the 3.
Very, very strong possibility, but we are talking about it in original form.
Oh, yeah. throw that out the window.
But anyway, no Mass
That's like
Effect,
Assassin's
though.
Creed. That's like Assassin's Creed 1 levels of just didn't age well.
Mhm.
But,
Absolutely, man.
so we're talking Star Wars, right? That's what's going on here.
The last word. Star Wars and Mass
Star Wars
Effect.
podcast. We got these guys hyped.
No doubt, man. So, what questions we got for Teddy and Mr. Travis here?
Well, first off, how did you two as well kind of meet each other? I like the eyebrows. How did you guys meet up? I'm going to throw it to Ty Guy first, since he didn't quite get a jump in yet. But yeah, it's like, how did you guys get to like meet? How's it been going? And, what do you guys usually talk about in the off hours?
Yeah, Teddy and
What's
I
the pillow talk like between you two?
The pillow talk.
Oh, it's pretty intimate. I don't kiss and tell.
We talk about the Galactic Senate regulations that really shouldn't be a thing, and
Let's just say when we're pillow talking, I'm all up in him like Palpatine in the Senate. Like I'm like,
what?
I don't know. Yeah, the
Savage.
Teddy and I met during COVID, I think. It was actually kind of fairly recently, but we had always been, we've talked about this a few times, Teddy. We'd always been like in each other's circles. Like we both do work for IGN. We've both been to the same E3 events, apparently to the same E3 parties, the IGN parties at E3, and not really interacted or met each other.
Wow.
And then we met when I I needed to get a new PC because I was gonna play Destiny on PC. That was like something. I guess I got to do that. And also needed to do reviews on IGN, and I haven't built my own PC in like years, so I'm just like way out of the game, and I didn't feel like watching YouTube video. So Destin hooked me up with Teddy and said, "Hey, this guy builds a lot of the PCs for IGN. If you don't want to build it, he'll build one for you." And so I had him build my PC, and then we just started playing Destiny together, and then we found out we both are obsessed with Star Wars, and it was just love at first sight.
Love it.
That's how the way it worked. Yeah, but
That's
we've
what's
actually
up.
never met in person. So you guys have met Teddy in person, but we haven't.
Oh, damn! When COVID, yeah,
I
Teddy's
mean,
awesome.
there's like a really high possibility that we've like walked by each other because like at the IGN War Room, you're interacting with. It's not that big, so like we've probably like. I probably went to go get food at some point, and you were also there, and we just didn't interact. Is my assumption.
Probably.
But
also, you've been in the IGN office a ton of times, and I worked there for 7 years, so it's like almost
and
impossible that we weren't. Yeah, I was there every day.
Yeah.
so.
I want to ask both of you about Clan Concerned origins, and because every time I see any one of you guys, like you guys get it in, man. I just love. You guys are always willing to help, because I Love Podcast, we need help at times. And we need to get some carries, and these guys come through. It's always love. But what's the origins of that? How do you guys get involved with Clan Concern?
So I joined around the time Black Armory was made. It's actually made by our good friend Global Reset, who's the founder of the clan. And then I think there's a few other people in there. And sorry, I'm getting like a couple of messages and it like really distracted me.
No, you good.
So he founded it, and then it was basically him trying to basically make his own clan because he'd been playing with so many different people, and he just like, all right, I'm just gonna make it. And I'm probably leaving out some details here, but I discovered them shortly after leaving the IGN clan because no one was playing the IGN clan, and then we just kind of built it from there, right? Like I had my friends join, and then some other people's friends join, and it slowly just built up. And we have a wide variety of different players that all interact, and we try to help people and go through stuff. And do the end game stuff really, but we're pretty tight knit. And then we got Travis in there when he came to PC. He was looking for some people to play.
Nice.
With
Travis.
Yeah, I before joining Concerned, I managed my own clan for a number of years. Ever since clans were a thing in D1, my clan was called the Intergalactic Gentlemen.
Of course it was.
Of course it was. Of course it was.
Very unsurprising.
I would expect nothing less.
Nothing less.
Yeah, but my clan was actually pretty great. It was an Xbox clan, and we were like PvP heavy, always going flawless in trials and going to Lighthouse every single weekend. And we were great. And then D2 came out and people started falling off the map after Curse of Osiris, and kind of the writing was on the wall. And I eventually gave the clan to a friend of mine who was just playing a lot more on Xbox than I was. And then Brian Malkowitz convinced me to join Concern. But,
C-team.
Of course. Yeah, C-Team.
Yep.
So,
C-Team.
yeah. I don't rep it as much as they do because I play on Xbox where we have 0 clan members online in the roster at all times because they're all on PC. But once crossplay is implemented, that's going to be a game changer because it means I can actually play with my clan members without having to boot up my godforsaken PC and playing in that trash heap that they call a Crucible playlist.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Tell us how you really feel.
Tell us how you feel.
You seem to have some struggles there on the PC front, I see.
Yeah, well, the Teddy will tell you that it is not a very fun place to be right now. We actually did trials together, Teddy and I, last weekend on Xbox, and it was such a breath of fresh air.
Before they disabled it.
Before they disabled it.
We joked about it too. Like, there's no way they're going to disable it a third weekend in a row, right? And then
I said it.
morning,
I said on Fireteam chat, there's a 0% chance that it'll come back.
Yeah.
And
I woke up Saturday to a couple tweets, and it's like, we've disabled trials. I'm like, what? Again?
We didn't even get to finich our ticket, Teddy. We got all the way to match 7. Yeah,
man.
But
Last week was like the epic, almost the epic of all loots. This week sounds pretty good too.
I don't know what's up this week.
Play it tonight or it'll be canceled tomorrow.
I know. I'm like literally have urgency.
Feels like
I
you
see
gotta
Holly
jump
in
in
there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Feels like you got to jump in. I wanted to ask you guys though, like, what are your guys' thoughts on why something like that even happens? Like, did they think they had it fixed? Did they were like hoping people didn't try the thing? How does something like that? Oh, nope, never mind. Like, how does that happen in 24 hours? Like, it's live, it's not. Just wanted to get your guys' takes.
My guess is that they tried to solve the problem by making it so you can't switch characters and rejoin, and that just didn't work. And so then their new solution is just to disable rejoin altogether, which like I think the solution they went with is like a blunt instrument. Like this will fix the problem, but it also make the playlist worse because rejoin is a feature that should exist. And whatever they tried before to fix it without using the blunt instrument, I think just didn't fall through. But I don't know, man. Like I have no experience designing or coding games or anything like that. All I know is that I work with coders all day, like, you know, engineers that are doing computer engineering, and nothing ever works in the live environment like you plan it to. It requires a ton of testing, so it kind of doesn't surprise me.
Fair enough. Ted, what you think, man?
Well, so we know, I think from a tweet or something, that basically they disabled the ability to join on a separate account, but people were then they were like, okay, we can just join on the same account on a different character, and I think that's why it got disabled again.
Got it.
But on
So
like a
it's even
technical,
more simple.
yeah, it's even more simple. I don't know. I thought the first weekend people were doing it on the same account, but turns out they were doing it on two different accounts. And I know from other bugs and other fixes they've done in the past that what they sometimes do with something that's kind of urgent like this, they'll sort of do like a Band-Aid fix, and then later on when they issue like an actual patch, not a hot fix, like a patch, they'll sort of stealthily like actually fix it. And they don't disclose that to us because we don't need to know that as much as I would like to know, but they don't. You know, I'm one person, but that's usually what happens. So I'm assuming that's what happened here is they kind of did like a Band-Aid fix, and then they would, you know, they fix it later, and then the account thing and the same character. Obviously, I'm not a programmer either. I have like a basic understanding of programming, but like, Destiny's complex, so
A little bit.
I don't know.
A little bit of spaghetti code going on.
Speaking of fixing, I have to ask before we get into it, Teddy. You not that long ago had one very, should I say, stressful error that was plaguing you for some time in reference to Triumph score. So please talk about that so the people know.
I literally lost sleep over this. Like I was so stressed about this because it was like, well, you know, aside from the friend game, which is, I think that's real, right? Like I play the game with my friends, and that's part of the enjoyment. But like they added 10 Triumph score to the Crown of Sorrows. I'm trying not to get like really angry about this because I got really.
You was hot. You last time you were here, it wasn't fixed. You were hot. So explain to people.
So Crown of Sorrow Day 1 Triumph, which you can only do for the first 24 hours. For whatever reason, when Beyond Light came out, they added 10 Triumph score to it retroactively. Okay. Now I did not complete Crown Day 1. So I didn't have that Triumph. So come Beyond Light, I was like, wait a second, I'm 10 scores short. What the heck's going on here? So I'm doing the math, and I figured it out, and I was like, what is this, you know, BS, basically. I was like, what's going on? So then, you know, then I found some, like, usually when there's like this really odd Triumph bug or something like that, like there's like a couple Reddit posts or like maybe like one kind of lesser known streamers talking about it, and that's kind of it, right? And you know, for them to know about this stuff, they're not going to see that because I'm sure they check a lot of Reddit and a lot of the forums and stuff, but they're not digging that far. Yeah, I think they're not. So for about 8 weeks, I would tweet politely at DMG and Cosmo with you know, screenshots and like, look what's going on. Oh, now
politely with screenshots and very detailed.
I'd like to again present my PowerPoint presentation about this bug.
You know, Lulu's talking about it, and this streamer's talking about it. Like, can you just acknowledge the bug? Like, can you just tell me that at least like someone is looking at this? And nothing. Like they wouldn't say anything. So in my head, I had to assume like, okay, they're not going to fix it because their track record typically for this kind of stuff shows that they don't fix this stuff, or it takes like a year, right? They'll fix it in the next expansion. And ever since Season of the Drifter, I've achieved max Triumph score every season. So
I love how
unfortunately, last season I couldn't do it because of this stupid Triumph. Now to their credit, clearly they noticed me because they fixed it, and DMG, you know, replied to the tweet and whatnot. But I was like, man, 8 weeks for you to not be able to tell me that someone's looking at this, like, just can you just tell me, please? Like, I don't need to know when you're gonna fix it. Yeah, I don't need to know when you're gonna fix it. I don't even care what the solution is. Just tell me you're looking at it.
Travis, you look like you want to ask Teddy a question. Travis, you want to say something to Teddy here? Travis, you look like you want to speak here.
Ebontis and I have talked about this off the air, but like, Teddy and I are very alike, but when it comes to Destiny, we're the exact opposite type of player. He loves PvE. I love PvP. He loves doing everything that Destiny tells you to do. And I literally, the amount of effort that I will give to an activity I don't want to do in Destiny it appalls other Destiny players. How much
I am appalled.
I have not played a single strike or game of Gambit this season. I've not played it at all. People are like, you got to get bottom dollar. I'm like, dude, I choose death first. I don't want to play Gambit, and I will not play it. And so just hearing Teddy talk about this, about how he's like in class and Bungie's the teacher and they gave him like this homework assignment and he turned in his test and they gave him 99.9% out of 100 and he's like, no, you got it wrong. I meant to check this. It's just so nitpicky and hilarious to me. So I do have a question for you, Teddy. Who hurt you is my first question. Actually, what happened to you as a kid that made you feel like you just have to have every triumph? It is psychotic behavior, is all I have to say. It is scary to me, and we're all worried about you. Okay, we talked about you on Fire Team Chat. Very worried for you.
I'm a completionist at heart, just because my love of Nintendo and Nintendo teaches you. At least in every game, it's like, oh, you got to go get everything. And as 5-year-old Teddy playing Super Mario 64 or whatever, it was like, I got to get all the stars. Like the game wants me to get all the stars. That's what I'm supposed to do.
The mission.
So I'm just an objective oriented person. So that's just how I function. But you actually brought something up funny. So in sophomore year of high school, I had this chemistry teacher that I absolutely hated. I'm not going to say her name, but I hated this teacher. And she hated me. She hated me. And so her way of grading like basic assignments was you either got a top stamp or bottom stamp. Top stamp being indicative of like you did basically everything correct, and then bottom stamp being like, oh, you need to fix some stuff. No. There was no rhyme or reason to this.
I don't remember anything about high school.
I love the detail of this stuff.
I have an eidetic memory. It's a curse and a gift. So the stamp was not indicative of like what you actually did. It was basically whether she liked you or not. And I can prove this because everyone in that class cheated off each other. Like basically everyone would copy everyone's homework assignments. So me and my friend, let's say, he would turn his in and he'd get a top stamp. And then I would turn mine in and I get a bottom stamp, but it's literally the same piece of paper with the same work, everything on it. And I think now that you bring up this trauma thing, that just hit me, and I'm kind of like, I think that's what it was. Like I was just not good enough for this chemistry teacher, and I don't like chemistry.
I'll bill you for our session today.
I'm really glad I can get this off my chest because man, it's been,
this is therapy. We're healing.
It's been like 10 years.
The last word campfire therapy session.
Yeah. I just put down my warlock pool for him to heal up on.
Bottom stamp button.
Screw that teacher. Like I know you're out there somewhere.
Travis, you got to find a stamp and just find some document. You give him and bottom stamp it later on.
Bottom stamp, yeah. Oh, this is great.
I'm gonna reach out to that teacher, find the bottom stamp, and just.
She has to be retired at this point. It should be a stamp of
a bottom, just an ass right there.
Oh my Jesus! And I get in trouble on the show. We're
outside of the first 30 seconds. It's fair game. So.
Okay, we lose.
Yeah,
no.
I don't even.
That was a good story.
What are we talking about now? Star Wars, Fast? No, we actually have to talk about some Destiny.
Just to go back to like the Destiny philosophy, because I think this is like so fascinating of like the different types of players. Because I think Teddy is what like Bungie wants every single player to be like to just do everything and spend as much time in the game as they can get them. Teddy probably does it a little faster than they want him to, because like the beginning of the season, he's like, all right, I got everyone. I'm going to go work on something else. And I'm like, what, dude? The DLC's been out for 3 days. How do you have every triumph? But like, he does all the checklists. Ebontis and I think probably Cog, I think you guys are like the middle ground, like the every guardian of like, you'll do some of it, but you have a limit. Like you're not going to just do like the most insane thing.
He is a little bit more towards the Teddy side.
He claims to be more like less completion-y than at least Teddy for sure.
When he's in his bag, he's calmed down now.
I have moments of ups and downs. Yeah, it's like I had my solo Nightfall doing those days, and I've done my solo dungeons, but also like I don't raid as much. That just hasn't ever been my thing. So there's pieces of the game that I don't hit. But I'm unlike Travis. I also haven't just like crossed things off the directory either. I still dabble in places. He's done like, no, go away. I will not touch the gambit.
It's more okay. Then I sit on the opposite of Teddy. I am Bungie's worst nightmare. I am the type of person who, like, if you don't give me like high incentives, content that I like I am gone, dude. My Xbox right now, I've got my Xbox on right here. My Xbox has 1,427 games installed right now on my hard drives. I've got 18 terabytes of external hard drives on my Xbox. I have so many games to play, and like Destiny is like, dude, I'm not going to do the same strike 5 times in a row. Like, I'm just not. I don't want the gun. You can keep it. I'll still be good at Crucible. I don't need it. Like, I'm fine, dude. And
I still got my skills. That's all I need.
Exactly. The thing that annoys me is like there's no activity in Destiny where you need like an adept weapon to win. Like you can go through trials without an adept weapon against somebody who has an adept weapon. You can beat a raid without an adept weapon. You can beat Grandmaster Nightfall without an adept weapon. So like why are people min-maxing and spending hundreds of hours for these god rolls that they don't need? Like I could pull a trash roll and just use it and it'll be fine. It won't do as much damage as Teddy's over here with like his abacus, moving stuff back and forth and trying to min-max. And I'm just like,
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Teddy's the youngest one here to be talking about an abacus. So
we have calculators, Travis. I know you're older, but there's a thing.
I'm sorry.
I got my TI 9000 over here.
This is why my teacher gave me bottom stamps my whole
Shout out to the bottom stamp podcast.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I'm warning all you guys. I don't know how long this episode's gonna be.
It's gonna be
just for everybody.
We just got past the intro.
Yeah, I'm in that like happy medium, I think, between Teddy and Travis, because in the beginning there is a little bit of completionist aspect that I do see, but there's a part of me that has now evolved into Travis where I'm like, I'm not doing that. Right? There's certain things where I'm like, I'm not doing that, but I feel I'm well-rounded. I still feel I'm not all the way going over the other side. I can't ignore certain things. Like, I feel like if the reward, like if the reward is
it will consume you.
If the reward is truly unique, I feel like, you know what? And I really like the archetype, the armor, or if I like a unique perk combination, I'm very build-based. Everything about me is a build. Like, I was playing with Teddy, and I was just in awe of, rest in peace to the homie Chaos Reach. I know you're going through it right now. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was in awe of his build because he's just we playing, and he's just getting this super. So he's like the epitome of efficiency. And I do like that aspect of him where he'll find these builds that are very effective. Like, especially like,
I don't find them. The internet finds them.
The internet finds them. And then you
embraces them.
You embrace it. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like Warmind Cell stuff. You know, when Godslayer Warheads came out, I'm the guy like that 4th, 5th column in the armor. I'm looking at, to see if I have Lucent Blade. Like whatever I'm wearing, I'm trying to be efficient and practical with some powerful build. So I love that aspect of it. And as he knows, like raids for me, that keeps me in. So whereas other people lose interest, and they're like, look, I've done everything. I'm really nothing for me to do. You've got your exotic quest. If there's a good raid for that season, and Deepstone Crypt really fits that for me, like shout off the back from Dead, he's in there. A couple of clanmates are in there. Like if they hit me up like, hey, Cog, we need one. We got 5. We need one. I'll stop what I'm doing, jump in there, help them out, that kind of thing. And that's because I'm kind of in that boat. But the last point I'll say to Travis's point, I have this rule now. I can't launch Destiny first. If I do, I will get nothing done on my backlog. Because there's always one more thing to do in Destiny, right? And like Travis, I've got this whole backlog of games that he always teases me about. Like, how are you playing all these games?
My backlog is probably worse than yours.
Yeah, like it's horrible. So the good thing about Xbox is quick resume. I can go back and forth between a lot of games. But the reality is, quick resume is bro, it's
underrated
amazing
feature.
It's amazing.
It's the MVP,
bro.
MVP.
Shout out to you. Yeah. Shout out to you. Yakuza Like a Dragon, bro. You got me. I'm in.
Dude, play it. I have every achievement in that game, and I do not regret my decision to put all that time into it.
Amazing. It's the most hilarious thing I've ever played.
That being
it's the most hilarious thing you've ever played. So anyway, Like for me, the rule is if I need to play another game, I must launch it first. Because if Destiny gets launched first, Destiny's selfish. It's in a relationship. It's like, I got you. You're not going anywhere. You're not talking to anyone. It's being you tonight. It's that kind of situation with Destiny. So that's the rule I got.
That doesn't sound like a healthy relationship.
It's not.
No, like here's the thing. Like I will never begrudge anybody for doing an activity in Destiny and grinding or whatever if they're having fun. Like if you have fun playing Gambit and you're like having fun on the grind of bottom dollar, like more power to you. I don't find it fun, so I don't play it.
Shout out to your boys. I was playing with your boys, DJ Oris and them. And what you call it?
They're online?
No, I was playing with them yesterday doing exactly what you just said. Yeah, they said, hey, they hit me up. David hit me up. He's like, yo, I see you rocking. Shout out to MJ the boy. Shout out to David and Clint. I forgot the guy's name. The other guy.
Minch?
Yeah. That's his name. Yeah, it was us four. And they were like, yo, we can't grind bottom dollar. We haven't been unlucky. I'm like, dude, you're going to get it. Watch. We play like 4 in a row, and they got like 3 bottom dollars. It was a great start.
No way.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. It was a great start.
Damn, I should have joined you. But yeah, like so for me, it's like if you're having fun in Destiny, like go for it. Do the same strike 40 times, Brian Malkowitz. Like have fun, man. Like
he doesn't do that anymore.
I can't possibly understand how that's fun because there's 1,000 other games out there that are you could be spending your time on. But the thing about Teddy is I know he's not having fun because I talk to him. And he still plays it. He's not having fun. For him, he's in a prison of Destiny. Like, most people are tourists to the Destiny universe. He is a prisoner there.
Stockholm Syndrome took over long ago.
That is what it is. I mean, Teddy, I'm sorry to call you out there, but like it is. You're serving a life sentence, and nobody knows when it's going to end.
First of all, is my audio still crackly? Because I didn't see that message.
Nope, sounds better now.
Yeah. You're good.
So what I will say is kind of to defend myself a little bit. The last like 3 seasons or so, basically since COVID started, I've kind of basically just been like, all right, I'm just going to do the triumphs, and I'm not going to worry so much about getting all the weapons and getting all like armor. Like if it drops, cool. Or if I can do it passively, like the Umbral system, for example, if I can do that passively in the background, then sure. But like the bottom dollar grind and all the other specific activity weapons, like I ain't doing that. That is just a terrible, awful grind that I don't know how that's okay. And now that sunsetting is not a thing, my vault is safe. So I got everything. Like this I spent this week basically refixing all my armor because I dismantled some stuff prior to sunsetting getting undone. I kind of cleaned my vault out of stuff that I was like, all right, this is never coming back because they're not going to undo this, this subset of weapons. So now that I'm kind of peaked again, it's like, well, now I play every week to get the triumphs that I need to get that week, and that's kind of it. And so I actually don't play as much as you think I play.
Correction, though, your vault is safe for now.
For now, thank you.
We all know how much Bungie likes to reverse stuff.
Right.
I wouldn't
until another Cabal invasion comes and they blow up that tower and we go back to the old tower.
Yep.
Yeah.
That vault's gone, but then you go back to the D1 vault and you get your Galahorn back out and you're good to go.
Yep. I will say though, in Destiny 1, even though I did almost everything in that game, I wasn't as like gun-ho about it. I think with Destiny 2, triumphs are a lot like achievements, and I used to be an achievement hunter on Xbox, and so I think it's the same drive that I have.
What's your gamer score?
It's like 140,000, but I was like one of the first 1,000 people to get 100,000, and then I just stopped because of Destiny.
That's pretty good.
I also started playing other stuff. Be honest, I play more Nintendo stuff if anything now. But yeah, I mean I guess you're not wrong. Like we are different players, so if everyone can enjoy Destiny.
How much work is all the triumphs every season? How many hours do you play just to get the triumphs?
Over like a whole season?
Yeah. By the way, can everybody hear?
I can hear you. You good?
Yeah,
you're
good too.
To them?
Yeah, chat.
Oh yeah, because Prescott says you're muted first. Yeah, let him chat. Let him know if you can hear him. We hear him good. Just want to make sure.
I swear OBS just died.
No.
Meanwhile, we'll let Teddy get his abacus out.
Well, let me
to calculate how many hours he plays.
It's probably like 200-300 hours maybe in a season, but you spread that out over 13 weeks. So if you actually want me to pull the abacus out and do the math,
he's working on the chat.
That's like 23 hours a week.
Troop said he can hear you now.
OBS died. So.
Oh no! Come
Keep
on,
the.
So is none of this getting recorded?
No, the audio will be there. There just will be a blank in the middle for video. So.
Interesting. We got this little anime characters here.
You could always just like splice the audio in to the video and just put like up a photo.
Yeah, I'll just do the last word campfire animation while we go through.
This is a
animation,
recreation of a dramatization of events, and you just get actors to play us.
All right, are we back? You guys can hear me. Looks like everything's working. Sweet.
Okay.
Yep.
Recording's back going. Perfect. Sweet.
Good. Nice.
Cool.
No, I was just going to say, for me, at least, in between all of these extremities, it's been, I think my relationship with Destiny has actually gradually gotten more healthy, to lean away from living just in that, missing out on so many games. Like, I didn't finish Horizon Zero Dawn. Eventually, I'm going to come back and do that before Horizon West comes out. Or, Forbidden West. And then just so many more games. Like, recently, I just got done playing Ori and the Blind Forest. Like 8 hours, but I was like, that game is just fantastic.
Play the sequel, so good.
Oh, I will. I was like, that's on my list. Now, I did a poll on Twitter, so Hellblade is coming first.
Oh yeah, he got to play it.
So I've been talking
that's
about
a great game.
So it's like exactly. So I've had this list of games, and more recently I've been working through them. It's like, okay, so jumped and played Inside. That was one night stream.
Oh,
fantastic stuff. Like creepy, creepy baby, but yeah.
Yeah, that's my
have you played Limbo?
Yeah, played Limbo first. Yeah, played Limbo first.
Okay,
classic.
Good.
Yep. So that's what I've tried to, because I was like hard Destiny and then creator and then trying to focus on Destiny. And now it's been nice to be, I've kind of figured out the dancing act, which still you haven't never enough time for. But like the way the seasons are now is, you can check in on the Tuesday if you're not going crazy hardcore for the triumph score. You still can get most of the like understanding of what's going on. You can still grind a little bit here and there. You can do some of the seasonal challenges. I do like that you can get back to some of the seasonal challenges later, unless it's a week of PvP and you miss the certain thing in the start. So some of those are better, some aren't. But I've also liked the point where it's like, I'm just going to take like Tuesday or Wednesday in the middle of the week, play something completely different. And I think that's honestly been probably the most healthy thing to balance out Destiny's kind of addiction, but also go back so many that I've missed. So that's kind of been my way to go through. It's like, I saw Travis say this, like, who's playing GMs? It's like, I'm not even high enough. I looked, I'm like, I'm 13-19. I'm 6 points away. And it's just like, there's two things that limit you. One, your artifact score. You have to get to 13-25. Period. You have to get to plus 15 at a minimum because your gear score only goes to 13-10. So you have to put in X number of hours, however efficiently you do it. I'm sure some people are better than others, just to do a GM. But why, as you said, Travis, like, is there anything I really, really need in from GMs to go do anything else in the game besides GMs?
And,
not really.
And like, also, like, why do you need to get to 1325? If they're going to cap your power, even if you get to 1355, they're going to cap you to 1325. So why set it at 1325? Why can't it be 1310? Why can't it be 1300? Like, if your power doesn't matter anyway, or maybe power just doesn't matter and you make everybody artificially the same power and the enemies do the same amount of damage to everyone. Like, if that's the way you're going to play the game, I really am. We're probably going to talk about this later.
No, it's like I was trying to lead into it now, so you kind of beat me to it. But that's,
I don't know.
When it comes to, for both you guys and Teddy, I definitely wanted to pick your brain on this one. The power grind itself, I haven't picked your brain on it in a minute, but also now we got the announcement in the state of the game. The power grind is only the pinnacles coming next season. So if you already hit 1310, you go 1310 to 1320. That's it. If you weren't 1310, your powerfuls last for about 5 minutes, and then you're right back at the pinnacle grind again. We've been through that before with Season of Dawn. I was curious just because we've had a bunch of different ideas on this show about where you can go. I wanted you to have the first take on, honestly, just the power grind now with GMs out and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that, and also on GMs themselves? We'll get to in a sec.
Yeah, so I'm pretty glad that they basically reverted the like 50 every season, because I think that was just absolutely pointless. So let's flash back a little bit. So season of the Black Armory season came out, and they had this insane power grind that you had to do just to participate in the first Forge. And I think they took that feedback to heart, and every season after that was basically, okay, you don't have to do this insane power grind just to participate in the thing. I guess Season of Opulence, you could maybe say that's an exception, but the raid came out 6 hours after the season launched, so that's kind of a weird situation.
That was very weird.
Yeah, and then they tried the 10 level thing with Season of the Dawn, which I personally prefer that. Now, in like a perfect world, I would say there shouldn't be any leveling season to season. It should just be expansion, but that's just what I think. Especially now that they've basically gone this route of like the seasonal model or the seasonal activity that you're doing each season there's no like prep you need to do to do it. You just go into it because of Black Armory. Like Black Armory is the reason that happens, presumably every season. So yeah, I would just prefer that there's just no power grind, and then the major expansion, we get 200. But I think the number is also just kind of meaningless now at this point because we're in the thousands, and like it doesn't matter, right? Like it's just sort of this thing that it's like, all right, well, it's the new thing I got to go do this season just to play the GMs. And to your point, Travis, like I think even though I do GMs pretty regularly, I don't like the leveling is just kind of, it's pointless because you're capping me anyway. So I'm curious to see how they handle it going forward now because it's only a 10 level increase. If they're still going to have, you got to hit max pinnacle plus 15 on the artifact to be able to participate. Because for me, I think that's just a gatekeeping method. Right. Since you're limiting the player's power through contest mode, which I'm fine with, I don't have a problem with contest itself. Then the actual difference or the actual leveling to get to that point is just another hurdle that more people have to overcome. And there is investment in that, right? Like what if you got, what if you're a one character player per week and you get insanely unlucky with pinnacles for the first, what is it, 7 weeks, right. And you don't have enough pinnacle power to get there, but you have the plus 15 on the artifact. And that at that point, that's kind of just like, well, now you're at the mercy of RNG. And the deeper problem is targeted farming, but that's, I'm not going to get into that. So yeah, I don't know, like GMs are some of the best content, especially this week. Like Devil's Lair GM is pretty fun. You all three of you put a bow on. You can put the trifecta of bows on. You got one of each. You got rainbow bows, and it's fun. Like and I don't think it's that hard. I could see it being difficult for some people, but I think the beauty of GMs when it's a good strike, when it's not a bad strike, is
I was about to say that's a good strike though. Yeah.
It is a good strike. It's a methodical thing that it's like a mini raid. Like you and your team, you have to go in prepared. You can't just, unless you're like one of those people that solos it, in which case you're crazier than I am. So
I saw that today. That was crazy.
Yeah. So like it's a great activity, and for the most part, GMs are rewarding. We're always going to want more, and people are going to complain. But like when they do the double rewards drops, or even just in general, like you get a lot of loot out of it. And so unless the strike is just absolutely terrible, or there's some like really cheesy mechanic like glassware or something, typically your time is rewarded adequately for the strike. So more people to participate is just better. Like they've had this philosophy with Destiny 2. They never publicly said this, but this is basically how they design a lot of stuff, which is they don't want the rich to get richer, which is a big problem that Destiny 1 had. And that's why a lot of the systems in D2 are the way they are. So essentially people can't constantly keep getting more and more. Well, the middle class, let's say, or the lower class doesn't get as much.
Like this.
Right. It is a problem that they've mostly solved for. And for me, it's frustrating because I want to get that extra 0.5% on my thing. But as I was alluding to earlier, like to me that
you want to get that top stamp.
Yeah, I don't care anymore. Yeah, I already got the top stamp, right? Like it doesn't matter. So, but yeah, that's kind of my take on it. Like the leveling, I don't even know how you solve that problem. Like I've thought about it, and I don't have a good solution other than just don't make me level every season.
So I've said the same thing actually, and my big question is, leveling is partly inherent to Destiny. Now we've gone through Destiny 1.
It's also convoluted if you really think about it. Like I've explained it to friends that don't play Destiny but have like a basic understanding of Destiny, and just look at their face when you explain the things you have to do to level.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Like it's nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the weird things about, because you think about, you had Crota's, what the hell was the first expansion?
Dark Below.
Dark Below, thank you.
Yeah,
Dark Below, and then obviously we had, the Destiny 1 feel of like chunk of expansion. It's like we had that first and we hated the drought, but now that we're constantly forced to play, it's like the idea of, as you're saying, and I think I've said this too, is like all you're saying is like, if it's the day before the season ends and then the day of the new season, the only thing that changed is you took my work away.
That's Destiny's history. They've invalidated your progress a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's like, but it doesn't do new stuff. It's to go play the same things.
Old stuff.
And that's, I think, the biggest issue is you say, hey, here's a Grandmaster. You said the Glassway. Well, what if the Glassway's up next season? Okay. Well, I did it 2 seasons ago, and you're telling me I can't do it until I put 100 hours into this new season again? And but also it's like the things, a lot of people like seeing the number go up, but I wish there was other ways for something to change. As you said, if the number just goes up but it doesn't mean anything anymore, I'd love to see contest mode of what if it was just like at the powerful cap.
Right.
You could do a Grandmaster at 1300 this season, 1310 next season.
Mhm.
If you could do and it's still going to be like 1325 instead of 1350. So they're still 25 above you. Vandals one shot you, all that stuff's still the same. But as you said, as soon as you hit the powerful cap, you can do them.
Mhm.
And also, it's the whole 6 weeks later. One thing about that, and I heard, I could have been DCP. I can't remember. I listened to too many. I think one of them just basically said, a lot of people start the season strong.
Right.
And then they fall off like 6-7 weeks later once they find, if they're not active players, like, get your Gathalions and stuff, they're like, hey, I'll play the new stuff and then take a break and go do other things. Well, they're never even going to be around for Grandmaster release because it's halfway through a season every time.
Right.
So it's weird.
I've thought about this a lot, Ebontis, because we talked about it last time I was on your show, and we were like, I don't understand the power grind. I don't get, like, how do you fix this problem? It was just such a weird thing. So I spent like a couple hours thinking about it the other day.
Mhm.
I think the purpose of a power grind is to like help people with a skill check and also to make you feel more powerful. And it's not doing either of those things right now. And I think that it kind of needs to be reworked to do both, right? Like it, in my opinion, if they're going to increase the power level by 10 every season, they should give you activities that you can enter at any level, but they're a lot easier if you enter them at the max level with the plus 10 that they want you to grind for. And you have all season to do that, and you can get plus 10. But if you'd rather not do that and you just want to rely on skill and you don't need the extra padding, then you can stay at your 10 below level that's much easier to get to and still complete activities if you're like the Teddies of the world who are like min-maxing and doing all that stuff that you need to do. And then on the other side, making you feel more powerful is something that is desperately missing in Destiny right now.
So often.
And
I
think they need to create a formula. Like, I don't know if any of you guys like RPGs, but there's Fallout New Vegas versus Fallout 3, the differing philosophy where, or I guess Skyrim is a better example, where in one of them everything levels with you. Right. Yes. And
that's Destiny.
You kind of never end up feeling more powerful. Destiny is that now. Versus Fallout New Vegas, where you could technically go straight to the last level of the game and finish the game in 7 minutes, like the speedrunners did on IGN. But if you do that, everyone at that end area is going to be like 50 levels above you, and they're just going to just knock your dick in the dirt, right? Like that's sort of like the I don't know where that phrase comes from.
Yeah. That's a new one.
But yeah, they're just gonna just destroy you, and I think that Destiny needs that kind of like lethality where like it doesn't gate you, but it should warn you like, hey, if you go to this area, if you try this activity, you're way below recommended, but they should let you attempt it. And it should be feasible to beat a Grandmaster Nightfall 10 below and a little bit easier if you do it at the current cap. And then there should be other activities I can go back into and just destroy. If I want that power fantasy, if I just want to like let off some steam and like, I know they're trying to keep the kind of Destiny world contained, but there's just needs to be a sandbox.
Yes.
Maybe there's Destiny 2 and then there's the Destiny 2 vault, and there's separate games, separate apps you can open up and you bring your character to the vault just to do old stuff and wreck people. And then you go to the current game where everything is balanced, but there needs to be some way to do that. And I don't think they're doing that right now. And then two, kind of the grind. I've been lucky enough to talk to a lot of people who work at Bungie and kind of get their feel on like what the philosophy was. And I know that when they created Destiny 2, one of their main pillars that they kept telling us when we were at the on-site review event, we were there for like a week in a hotel, nothing to do but talk about and play Destiny, right? And they kept telling us like, we want to take the work out of playing Destiny. We don't want these rituals where like you feel like you have to do everything every week and it's kind of like a job. We don't think that that's fun. And they were speaking as them. Like they were like, me personally, I don't like that. And I was standing there with them like, me too, dude. Like I for sure, I'm one of you. Like I don't want it to be a chore. And they tried it. And I think that their takeaway from the first year of Destiny, when vanilla D2, was that that their players disagreed with them, that their players wanted reasons to log on. They wanted random roles. They wanted that sort of stuff. And I think they took the wrong takeaway, because I think what the community was actually saying is that we want to be able to keep playing this game, but we don't want to feel like we have to.
Yep.
And I think that they took, we want reasons to play to like, you need to make us play like it mandatory in order for us to hit that bar. And I think that there's a middle ground between those two things where like I don't feel like I personally have to log on and do Gambit for 40 hours to be competitive, but I also have incentives where I could do that. Like there's actually reason to do it. And I think they've never really hit that balance. And right now they've kind of swung back to the D1 days where it's like, it's mandatory if you really like. I can't do Grandmaster, dude. I play Destiny every day. I talk about Destiny with you guys.
I saw your
tweet. Fireteam chat. I'm like 13, 15. I'm like way below it's going to take me a really long time to get up to Grandmaster. It'll probably be right when the season ends and then the grind begins again. Yep, and I've done the raid every week. I still don't have Eyes of Tomorrow. Wow. It's just there's a middle ground, and I'm sure I'm making it sound easier than it is, but I just feel like they've never really gotten to that point spiritually in Destiny where they reward their most loyal people without punishing the people who just want to play casually and don't feel like they're being left in the dust.
Yeah, it's this weird artificial thing they've got right now of the powerful versus pinnacle where you hit a wall, like a hard stop when you're like, level a new person's going to do the same thing. Soft, like powerful cap slows down, but you tend to make some progress. Even the blues still help. And then you literally hit the wall of pinnacle and you're like, well, there's still just a little bit more. You're limited on how many you can do. Like some are +1, then you got to do a raid for +2. And there are people I know who will like put everything together, but also on the other side, as you guys are saying, as soon as you hit the new season, it's the same thing over and over again. And that's, I think, what hurts the most. Like for you, Teddy, if it's like, if a Grandmaster, you say it's valuable to an extent.
Yeah.
What do you get out of there that has value to someone like you? I'm honestly curious.
It's usually the drops. I mean, the exotics are really what you're chasing, or the mats, right? If I want to send in shards, because I masterwork everything, right? If you look at my inventory, it's all gold bordered.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
And every armor piece in my inventory has a purpose. Like I have a build for basically every scenario.
Bro, we are so similar. This is scary.
Whether it's a weapon or an armor. Like I have it in dim where I just have the my loadout's all created for, I just did this actually this week because I fixed everything finally. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to casually play strikes. All right, I got my utility build, we'll call it whatever. It's Chaos Reach right now. I'm gonna play Gambit. Okay, I got that build. And I have something for everything. So GMs facilitate that my ability to basically keep that carrot or I guess feed the machine is a better analogy. Now I don't agree with that, especially now that sunsetting is gone. Like it makes everything like it just felt so much better now because I'm like, okay, I don't have to get a new armor set, which was I think the worst offender of sunsetting. Right.
Yep.
But yeah, and gyms are fun too. Like we only get one raid a year typically, usually, and if we get a second one, it's usually not as big in scope, or it's like a redone like VOG this year or raid layer. Yeah. And so GM's kind of it. I think it's a more challenging activity, and it's more intimate, right? Because you're not yelling at 5 other people; you're yelling at 2 other people.
True.
Still yelling, I guess.
Yeah. So I find them fun. I think it's Destiny's most challenging content outside of day 1 raid. But the thing is, you can't go back and play the raid in its day 1 form, so you can only experience that.
Why not?
But why not? Right?
Yeah.
Why not? Contest mode. Come on now.
I've also been. This is kind of a tangent, but I've also been of the mindset that like. There should be some way to go into the GM without contest on, but you get less rewards, or maybe even no rewards. Like if you just wanted someone to experience it, just to basically see what they're up against, kind of. Because not everyone watches the YouTube video that explains the loadout, or goes on Reddit, or talks to they're not like us. Like even though we're all different types of players, we're all what I would consider like a top echelon player. Yeah, because we just the fact that we're sitting on a podcast talking about the game already makes us ahead of most people. So when I'm sure they have data to back this up, but I'm of the mindset that when you allow more people to participate in your activities, you will ultimately you'll start gaining more hardcore people because little Jimmy who plays 3 hours a week or whatever, or the dad or whoever, maybe they get to Grandmaster on week 10 of this season. It's like, okay, I want to try it, but they don't have the loadout, right? Or the gear, or maybe even just the knowledge. Like the artifact is not explained very well, or even champion. Like I constantly see Reddit posts about, champions aren't explained adequately. And maybe they just want to go in the GM and try it and do it, but it might be too difficult for them with the contest mode on. So turn that off and let people participate without it, but give them something less or maybe nothing at all. I mean, that's a little harsh in my opinion, but whatever, right? Just some way to facilitate that. And I have something that is relatable to trials with that, but we'll get into that later because I think we have a trials topic later. But just to answer your question, like I like it for the rewards and how it kind of continues the loop in a positive way. But I think the letting someone into it is the problem,
right?
Especially when it's the same thing every season. Like it just shouldn't matter. They could make contest at whatever the pinnacle cap was the previous season. So this season would be 310 for the next season.
Right.
And just let me start GMs on week 1, and it's the same thing, right? Like it just make it whatever 325 and or 340. Mm-hmm. But there's so many solutions to this problem, but like Travis said, like I'm sure I'm making it sound like it's easier than it actually is.
Yeah, create a contest mode version of the raid that guarantees you an Eyes of Tomorrow drop, and I'll do
or flawless,
like, or flawless. Like create a way where like your skill or dedication gives you stuff, but it's not like the only way to get it, or it's not like it's gating other people out except for the most elite of the elite, but it saves you time or gives you access to it first, or something that the Teddies of the world care about, right? But I'll get there eventually, even if I don't do every Grandmaster Nightfall.
When the game is rewarding, that's when Destiny's at its best. I mean, that's one of the factors that make that, but like that's usually when it's at its best. And I don't know. I'm sure they have the data to back this up, but it is incredibly frustrating when you get a scenario like the bottom dollar or the strike guns currently, where it's just so unrewarding, and like my time does not feel like I played Gambit. I played Gambit last weekend for 8 hours with my friends.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, I mean we're having a good time, and we're winning most of the games. And I was going for the Guild of Dredgen title at the same time.
Sorry, I want to interrupt. Can we get a freelance Gambit playlist, please?
Oh, please, yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
I just thought Gambit was always freelance. Can you imagine? Can you imagine asking your friends to group up for Gambit? That's an embarrassing conversation to have. Anyway,
you want to play some Gambit this weekend, Travis? Is that what you're asking me? Are you asking me on a Gambit date? Is that how this works?
That date's not going to go very far.
So like I played Gambit for 8 hours, and like for the most part, it's not enjoyable, but we're not miserable because we're kicking the rocks, right? Like we're talking, we're having fun. I got one bottom dollar.
Damn.
And it was almost perfectly rolled, but it had hipfire grip on it.
I saw you tweet.
Which makes it automatically trash because that one perk is terrible. Factual. So this led into a whole different discussion that we had, which was like, do what Diablo does, where you can let me reroll one column, but that's the only column I can reroll on that gun going forward forever. And I don't care how many mats it costs.
Right?
I will spend it because
for that ability
getting 3 out of 4 perks or 2 out of 3 perks on whatever gun, and that last one just being Celerity or Bottomless Grief or something, it's like my time is just so undervalued. I get it. Not every gun can be perfect, but like
I would like to re-offer up my trials idea.
For
the rewards
too.
Go through and
they have this reward problem. Like I don't know if it's like a fear and we've talked about this before, like off air and I think previous podcasts, but like they just don't want to reward the player for some reason. Like I don't see the problem because Borderlands does it to the extreme, right? But like Diablo does it pretty well, where you give the player what they want, or at least kind of what they're chasing, and they'll continue to play. Diablo has all these systems that facilitate. You get the one legendary drop, and that might not have the sockets on it or the stats you want, but at least there's options to re-roll it, maybe break it down, craft a new one. There's all these different layers that they've implemented, and they didn't think that up overnight, right? It took them years to get to that point, but Destiny offers none of that. Like it's either get it or you don't.
Yeah, I think it's because Diablo and Borderlands don't have multiplayer modes. I mean, I think
that's what it boils down to. But counterpoint, it seems like they don't care about PvP. So then why should the former matter? Like
you're hurting me, but I agree.
If they don't care about PvP, I'm saying that in quotes because I'm sure they do care.
Right.
Yeah.
But they haven't shown it. Then why does it matter that? Oh, I got 5 third axioms to drop or 5 bottom dollars to drop in 1 hour of playtime. Like that shouldn't matter at that point.
But I will say for the PvP side though, you still are going to have people that will take a 3 out of 5 weapon into PvP. That's what they got. They're happy to get a bottom dollar, even if it doesn't have hip fire grip. They're like, I hear this thing's pretty good.
Most people like that. Most people play like that.
Right.
That's fine.
And then
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But then if they think this PvP, they don't want things to get too out of hand, yet some random, person played one game of Gambit, got a 5 out of 5 God roll, the bottom dollar, and then now they theoretically have the better gun that they were worried about in the first place. But somebody still does get that every so often, and then somebody could play 1,000 hours and never get that right gun. So why, from what you're saying, craft it, change it? Like, I mean, I've played 60 hours of Outrider, some dumbass amount, but like you're gonna have mod slots. Outriders demo, yeah, the full game's not even out there. That's a problem, but that's me. But you have mods like, hey, this thing's really cool. Well, let me change one thing out, and guess, just as you said, it's like I can make it more powerful. I can change some functionality. Just the one switch would do a ton, because the 4 out of 5s burn a lot of people. But again, it's also they want the little carrot hanging out on the stick. But again, how is somebody going to leave your game? Are they going to leave it pissed off that they never got the thing they were going for? Or are they going to leave it happy because, dude, I finally got this thing. I grinded out these materials. I switched this one thing. I love this new gun. Cool. Which one do you want the person to feel like?
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Actually, you guys, let me jump. I gotta jump. You guys
go ahead.
Great points, and I want to get in. 2 things. One, they attempted to do this in D1, if you guys remember. There was a map. It's called and glass needles. Remember glass needles, y'all?
Yep.
That was exotics.
That was exotic, but that was a start in the mindset, I felt, right? And ever since D2, it's been completely abandoned. So I completely agree with you. There should be something, because nothing feels, if you're the hardcore, like, a Teddy, and you're doing these hardcore activities, and it really it sucks to play trials and you get that celerity roll. You know what I'm saying? And, it just sucks. You blood, sweat, and tears. You did all this, and the investment was not worth it. So there should be, and to Teddy's defense, he's right. Like, I don't care how many mats I spend or you charge on it, you know what I'm saying? But give the hardcore the ability to change it. Shout out to Enzo. Give the hardcore the ability to change it, you know what I'm saying? Because, again, it doesn't feel good after all that investment. To Travis's point, he's on to something, too, as far as when we're talking power grind. Like, D2, in my opinion, has shout out to the fire department, because they agree. They're upset with D2.
They're not happy with it. You could say D2's on fire right now.
They're on fire right now. Clearly, we're hearing the results of it. Jesus. Anyway, the thing that I felt that they've never got down is like that, again, that feeling of power. Instead of everything kind of rising with you like a boat, right? Like, there should be activities. If you guys remember, in D1, one of my funnest memories was, remember when they brought back Age of Triumph, and they brought the old raids back, and
that
you
cool
felt
armor.
The cool armor and everything. You felt like a boss going back into Atheon, Crota, and all, and just destroying. Right? There is something about D1 that had that. When the old raid or whatever, you came back in there and you destroyed, and they don't have it. Like they're not rewarding that person that's going past that 1310, and they're going to that 1325. They're just going past this threshold. That person, if he's on my fire team, should be carrying. And to E's point, he's gonna like this. That's why a lot of people like D1, because there were more hero moments, right? There were more moments where that one person who really committed to the game, you were happy to have him on your team. You were happy, like, Teddy's in here with that 1325 or whatever it is. Like, and he can just solo or take a lot of the responsibility away because it's so powerful. Now everything is so mechanic based. Everything levels with you. So you truly, the truly dedicated is not really getting that advantage they truly deserve. And with Grandmaster Nightfall, I get it. You know what I'm saying? That's supposed to be the pinnacle activity. I'm not going to complain too much in that regard that it exists. And because honestly, I'm like, I really don't care about it. Only because I agree with Teddy as far as the activity itself. It's fun with coordination, planning, mods, builds. Yes. But I'm with E in that I'm not doing that for Shadow Price with an adept point +2. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just not. You know what I'm saying? So, again, it's this balance, like Travis said, like they still haven't found. They still haven't rewarded the hardcore enough to commit to it, or get the guy that's casual to kind of stay into to want to do it. So it's tough, man. The last point I'll say was this: in my clan, we got all different levels of skill, and the top level guy, shout out to Back for Dead, is in there. Sinister is in here. They're in this, Bungie's in this weird boat because the top level guys in my clan do have a sense of pride when they pull up into your fire team with their number over there. Like, there's a pride about it. So, and I think Bungie knows that. So they definitely keep in that aspect, but I just feel it's got to mean more. To E's point, last thing I'll say is just that, I do feel maybe, like I said, not every season has to be this 50-point thing, maybe 10-point, and maybe leave the bigger gap for the expansion. But I'm also at a tough spot. I just don't know how to actually satiate all these different players. And they're in a tough spot. And I wish I had like this definitive answer of all you got to do is, and it's tough because they've got all these different, they got all this data, all these different type of players, and trying to satisfy all. So yeah, it's tough.
Well, there is an easy answer, but it's just not easy to actually do the answer. The answer is just like create a crap load more content for Destiny.
Oh yeah, we always.
Like,
I've been screaming that.
That's so much easier said than done. Like if they could just like quadruple their team size and just come out with content all the time and just like feed, then people wouldn't care about the power grind because they'd be having fun doing the events. Yeah. The problem is that the power grind is being used to supplant new content and like, we'll just keep playing Gambit and grind for one weapon because we don't have time to build you some new strikes or God forbid a Crucible match. A Crucible map.
Yep,
map
right.
or mode. Map or mode that haven't been touched in forever.
Crucible maps?
Rift. Crucible map. Yeah.
What's Rift? Sorry. What?
Yeah, I forgot Crucible was even in the game, to be honest.
You said sunsetting is like, hey, you're glad your vault is safe with sunsetting now. Mm-hmm. But also you said you just got done going through your loadouts. You're not going to have to touch your loadouts for like about 10 months. Well, you're going to be able to use those for lots and lots of time now. So now it's like your incentive to go into Grandmaster, if you're capable of doing them outside of the number, if you have a loadout for a bunch of different situations besides, hey, I need to play the color match game of shields here and there. Outside of those, like now being as your armor will continue to go with you, you have to infuse it. It's literally all you have to do. But it still should all function the same way. So now where's your incentive? If you have a loadout for every situation, what's your incentive?
So there's one thing I want to come back to, but I'll answer your question first. Mm-hmm. So there's the only way that this works is they have to make something better than what came before, which is the reason that they said sunsetting was made, right? We didn't want this. We had this power creep problem, and we're gonna make better. We're gonna make new stuff that will be better than the old stuff, but it's gonna go away. The Recluse 2.0 that we never got, or the mods that we never got that were supposed to be better, and that's in the past now. But like for me, like I will use that armor until they make something better, or until they invalidate my progress, which will likely come first. If you look at Destiny's history, I was just talking to my clanmates about this. Essentially, every major expansion or new game, they've somehow either invalidated weapons or armor or both, in some fashion. So if they don't, next season, if they don't introduce some like crazy armor that has like a new mod socket on it, and the mods are just absolutely busted, and only that armor takes the mods, then you're right. There is no reason for me to replace it, and I'm okay with that because I've given sweat, blood, and tears to get basically all 64 plus armor pieces in my inventory. Could they be better? Absolutely. The max is 70 on an armor piece, but that's like pulling hairs at that point. And it doesn't matter. That like extra discipline I get for the extra 4 seconds or whatever, that does not make a difference in my load. That's just, passively, if I get a better armor piece, cool, I'm going to swap it out. So again, to answer your question, like it would have to have some new thing that's just inherently better than the old thing, which is the power creep problem. But I think, as I've talked about on a previous podcast, because they use the analogy of Magic the Gathering, how Magic the Gathering has set rotation. They rotate out old cards to put new cards in so they can make more busted cards that they know eventually will go away. Right. I think that model works for a card game. I don't think that model works for Destiny. And I think Destiny's model is more akin to Yu-Gi-Oh! If you're familiar with that game, which they have a forbidden and limited list where cards basically get forbidden or limited to one throughout time. And as new cards come out, they make better and better cards that are more balanced, usually, occasionally get an outlier. Excuse me. And over time, older cards will come off that list and be allowed, and they're not broken at that point because there's just better stuff. And Destiny sort of functions like, or has functioned like that, where they'll take away a weapon from you and then they bring it back, but then that weapon's not really as good anymore because there's just better stuff. And it's a fine balancing act, right? Like they've never gotten it perfectly at any point, but I think sunsetting was not the solution, especially when, at least I think, sunsetting was made because of the 5 pinnacle weapons that were, or 3 pinnacle weapons that were just busted. So I will keep playing because I like getting that 0.5% better, but it's not a requirement. Like I don't need to do that. That just happens because I'm playing. You know, if the GM drops me a Phoenix Protocol, please RNG gods, give me a Phoenix Protocol that's not 20 mobility.
I need a Phoenix.
I gotta go, brother.
They all drop with like 20 mobility from me. It sucks.
I got like a 15 plus.
You know,
in the leg.
that would be great if I got that, but I don't need that. So it's just at that point, it's either like a triumph or a fun factor, or you know, a friend needs it or a clanmate needs it or something. We can go through it. The other thing I wanted to bring up, because we were talking about the RNG feeling. Sorry, before I lose my train of thought.
No, please.
Because we're talking about this off the air too. So you're talking about how it feels to not get the thing. And I did Deepstone Crypt for 33 runs over the course of whatever amount of weeks that was. And I did not get Eyes of Tomorrow until the 34th run. I did not feel joy or happiness when it dropped. I just felt relief. It was like, I'm done. Like it's over. I don't have to stress about this stupid gun. And then of course the gun got broken. It wasn't even it wasn't even good. And the same thing happened with the messenger when it popped up for the 3 wins. I did it on all 3 characters, did all the bounties, and every single one had celerity on it.
Oh,
that doesn't feel good at all. Nope. Like that feels awful. And it just made, I was like, I don't want to play. Like I didn't play that week. I think after that I was like, I'm done. Like I'm not touching this game. This game can go in the trash. Like it's over. And then of course I come back the next week. We're in a abusive relationship. But yeah, no, that was the only point I wanted to bring up. Because we were talking about that. I don't want to lose my train of thought on that because we talked about it off the air a little bit. But
I gotta ask you. I know this is we're going along, but I gotta ask you both these questions. I didn't get a chance to discuss, and we briefly discussed when we was talking about the power creep. So now that sunsetting is gone, right? You know, we were told prior that the reason it exists is for power creep. And I agree with you, Teddy, that, you know, things like Recluse, Mountaintop, you know, were just these things that break neck. Yeah, you know, these things were just broken. They were just getting too hard for them to control and to balance, right? So now that sunsetting is gone, as Travis said, we'll say, does that really solve the problem? Like, how do you think they solve the problem of things are going to just now stay with us, I guess, effectively all the way, you know, to Witch Queen or whatever that new limited? Like, how do you think they solve that? Because theoretically, power creep is still going to be here. So that's what I want to know. Like, do you think this is just them, again, for now? Or, you know, how do you think they, you know, even address this? I'm very curious. I never got a chance to ask both of you guys. So anyway,
go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, I don't even think that they know how they're going to address it, and I think they kind of admitted as much in the TWAB where they said like, "Hey, here's the problem we're trying to solve. The sandbox needs to be refreshed every once in a while, where people aren't just using the same weapon, you know, same 3 or 4 weapons over and over again." And I think everyone in the Destiny community recognizes that that's a problem. I don't think that anybody is like hoping that we're just going to use Recluse and Mountaintop for like forever, you know, and that's just going to be Destiny. Okay, all right. So Teddy hopes that. Teddy's a monster. I'm TIL.
I was like, I'm gonna come back to that.
Teddy's a monster. Yeah,
he would go crazy.
I think that the solution isn't to necessarily. I mean, if obviously power creep can't be a thing, but there's nothing that hurts somebody else's existing build to introduce new things to the game, and I think that that's what needs to happen. They need to come up with new perks and create guns that only have that perk because it existed after that time, and that doesn't hurt an old weapon. It just gives a new way of playing. They can create guns that operate in new ways and armors and new mods that can be applied to various armors. There's like lots of ways to do it. It's just that those ways are really hard because you have to spend a ton of development time coming up with new perks and balancing them, and I can't even imagine how hard that becomes to then balance your sandbox when there's like 50 perks instead of 20, right? So that's difficult. And that sort of thing. But I think the solution to just like take away weapons is way easier, right? Because all you have to do is just say, all right, those weapons are gone. And then just with a magic wand, you've solved your problem. And now you've given them a lot of different reasons to grind. Yeah, I mean, I think there's two ways out of this. One is don't make it so much about the loot, make it the ways that you use the loot, make more activities, make more content in Destiny that people love to play, and they'll just play that just for that. But that's a resources problem. And then the other solution is to continue the way they're going, not create as much content because maybe it's just not feasible in a game of the size, and then create different types of weapons and armor that just are not more powerful, just different, right? That have different mods and that sort of thing.
Only attainable on that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I think both of those paths out are extremely resource intensive. And I don't know that they have a solution that isn't. And the one that they had, they tried and then gave up on it almost immediately, which still boggles my mind.
That's the same thing I said. I was shocked they backed away from it.
I like, to me, it's like if you can convince a team of like 600 people, or at least the leaders of that team, that like you're going to make this huge change to Destiny, that would strike to me as like something that they like fought over and were tormented by, and like, should we do it? And then when they made that decision that they were going to like stick to their guns forever, and the fact that like they gave it kind of a try for like 2 seasons and then immediately backed down on it, that blows my mind. That it was that,
bro. I share that.
They just didn't stand up for what they thought they believed in. And maybe that's good. Maybe that's like humility and them realizing, hey, we were wrong, and they're listening to the community. But maybe it's just like, maybe they just didn't give it a chance, and that was the path forward. Because I was a guy who was defending sunsetting with the caveat that they were going to try new stuff and make things that were broken and not care. And that was fine, because if things went away a season later, you could have fun that way. And I still think they can do that. I think that they can create pinnacle weapons where when you earn them, the understanding is that they're only going to be around for that season, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And then you can still grind your bottom dollars and your stuff like that. But then for the really crazy weapons, the pinnacles, those are the only weapons that do sunset. And I think that there's middle grounds that allow people to change the sandbox and pull in new stuff without breaking everything. But yeah, I'm with you, Cog. Like, I'm just appalled. Like, how the heck did they make such a huge decision and then just immediately all right.
Yeah. 4 months later.
Bye.
See ya.
It blows my mind.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. The surprise and the resource thing. But I know we're going long. I just had, because I have talked to both of you, so I wanted to get that off.
No, that's literally why I wanted everybody in here today, is because we're at kind of not a breaking point for the game. We never really are. We know the game's always going to survive, but there is a point where all these things feel like they're up in the air. I've said my eyes are literally looking out to Witch Queen. Why? Because that's when like an Armor 3.0 is going to even matter. And as I think Teddy, you said, there's a point they make some of your stuff irrelevant with an expansion. Hence why, for me especially, why the hell am I going to grind out any armor this season if I've got a Masterwork set that's going to get me through the year, when Witch Queen is likely, and even there was a point that I think it was Joe Blackburn said, they want to make sure armor is not this thing, hey, I want to replace the stats every year. So they have some plan of a new armor system in the works, whether it's new mod, stats that matter. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's going to be something different. That's what you said is their way to make stuff new and make stuff reasonably attainable. And maybe with their huge, there's like Kuj has done some cool like trials and weapons and armor and stuff 2.0 to take things to another level, and all these little pieces that they need to implement of, why do I want to go after this weapon? Okay, it's got some cool perks on it. Well, these are new perks that we implemented. Are they any better or are they different? And then that's always one of those things, at some point they're going to run out of how different can we continue to make this stuff.
Yeah, that's
is it going to reload a little?
Yeah,
it's like, how long for another 3.5 years? Because we know there's 3+ now. Witch Queen, Lightfall, plus 10 or plus, year 10. How many more perk varieties are they going to come up with?
I mean, just look at exotics.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the thing. It actually kind of blows my mind that exotics are the one weapons that didn't get sunset and armor that didn't get sunset because they're the most broken. And then legendaries, which are just some of them were kind of powerful, got annihilated.
Right.
That's crazy to me because it seems like you would think the opposite, like the outliers that are exotic that can do all these crazy things would get sunset. But they were like, no, those are safe. We like it. That I get it. You can only have one equip. So it's different.
One equip. That's why. Yeah.
It just blows my mind.
I'm good at you.
But yeah, it's like that's kind of the idea is like my wonder is how different are things ever going to, like you see Frenzy, I'm like, okay, cool. It's another way to get damage. You've had your rampage, you had your kill clip, you had your multi-kill clip, you've had multiple different ways. You even have lasting impression. What does it do? A delayed timer for more damage. Like we all tend to lean that direction when a new one comes out. Because why? You still want higher DPS. That's what most people are generally going to lean for if they start looking into min-maxing at all. You've got your armor, which is upping your stats. Why? Because you'll either get your super faster. It's either survivability or more damage, usually most of the things. So I'm curious to see what they do with like an armor 3.0. That's probably what has me most intrigued that far out. But the other thing that has me intrigued lately has been the story. Yes. And I do want to like see what how you guys have been taking into the story at this point to say, honestly, like that's why I log in every week. Like the seasonal challenges are fine. The other pieces are okay. I literally want to know what the interaction is for the week. Now, it kind of bugs me that it's once a week and I get like 30 minutes, this little baby quest, and I get my little drip feed here and there. We'll get to that in a second. But like, the story that like Beyond Light was cool. We had Elsie and Clovis. Sadly, I think we'll come back to that in about 8 months. But like this season's story, the way they've delivered it has actually been really, really cool. And I've enjoyed like seeing the progression of the characters, the voiceover during the battlegrounds, more voiceover than I think we probably ever have had in a season.
Ever.
And then obviously this one was, we saw Keitel take over the Twitter account, which is hilarious because that might be in canon now. And we also have her denying the attack on Zavala. We have the in-game cinematic we talked about last week done with like the storyboards, which is, you know, fantastic to see that little type of way to see in-your-face storytelling. This time I log in this week and Zavala's basically, all right, Keitel, let's 1v1. Like that's kind of how it sounds, but it's going to be by champion. And it honestly
1v1,
seems,
bro.
Yeah, I was like, so I was kind of curious how you guys think the story has gone so far and where you think this season's story is going to end up. We get a season pass strike next week, which is a little weird because it's like a week delayed for everybody else. So that's going to be tied into the story. So I was kind of curious your guys' thoughts. I'm going to check on my dog again. Story discussion. I'm going to say, Teddy, tag you're it.
Yeah, Teddy.
I like it so far. I basically have always, I mean, I like the story in Destiny in general, which is part of the reason I play. But the main expansions are usually what matters. And those are generally also what propel the story forward.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. Like the seasonal expansions generally are giving you sort of a side story. Side story that kind of at the end of it relates to something that's happening in the main story. And I think that's by design. I think they do that intentionally. Because I think since Taken King, they've had this, maybe it's evolved, but they've had this vision of where they want Destiny to go from that point up forward. Because Taken King was basically the starting point for everything that's happened up until now. That was the catalyst. So I think the seasonal stuff is just like, it's cool. And the Keitel stuff is interesting. I like it. I'm pissed we're fighting Cabal again for like the 4th or 5th year in a row. But yeah, I mean, it's not like a 10 out of 10, but I'm glad we have it. And the Crow stuff is obviously the most interesting, I think, aspect of it because his character is so unique. And I'm happy they're kind of exploring that dynamic for him. So, yeah.
The story as you log in. Let me ask I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, that's it.
No, I was just saying, like, no, I completely hear you on that. Those interesting story beats and stuff like that. So I was gonna ask Travis, like, what about you in reference to the narrative, the story, the season? You know, how are you feeling? Is that giving you incentive to keep coming in, or is it something like, not as much?
No, totally. I mean, obviously, I talk about a lot about how like the main reason I log in is to make blueberries cry in Crucible, but actually, I am a huge lore guy. I mean, we've talked about on the show that like I tend to attach on to certain stuff and just like dive into it times 1,000. And Destiny is one of those things where, I think I'm a few months behind on like some of the lore stuff right now, just because, as you know, I don't like to do do stuff I don't want to do in Destiny. So like doing Presage 9 times to get all of the lore entries, like, nah, it's cool, man. I'll just read it online. So
I'm good, bro.
It's just
stuff
a triumph.
like that, but it's just a triumph. Like, who cares? It's just a top stamp. Why do I care about that? You know.
Good one. Continue.
But yeah. I actually do really like the story and the lore in Destiny. Actually, on Fireteam chat today, everybody laughed at me for bringing up Amtech, the Scion, just because Paul and Destin didn't know who he was, and they were just like, nerd. Fair.
Paul has no room to talk about the lore, because honestly, we all know that he's like done videos about it.
Paul wrote fanfic about the cancellation of Trials last week, so like he truly has no room to talk, that loser. But yeah, they were making fun of me for that. But I actually think this is the best season of Destiny, and I mean like season, not like main expansion, and that's just because the main activity is actually fun. I don't like doing it every week. 3 or 4 battlegrounds a week. But it is at least brief, and it's more entertaining than 90% of the other seasonal activities we've had to do. I think the story is really good. I love that they've actually got people in spaces doing stuff or seeing characters interact and that sort of thing. I think that's really great. I have 2 criticisms when it comes to storytelling. One, I really wish that they would do some of the storytelling in the world, like, how Destiny 2 vanilla, we got to see like Zavala actually put down his Titan bubble, and we got to hang out with Saint 14 in Season of the Dawn. I want to hang out with Guardians like on the battlefield rather than going to like a social zone to
My boy
hear
Alex,
them.
He preaches that, what you said. Yeah, he's big on that.
Why can't Zavala drop in at the end of the battleground and have the conversation, or in the middle of it even, to kind of like break up some of the stuff? I just think that they're trying to make it so that the story of Destiny is optional, and that's sort of at odds with, I think, most of the people who are playing Destiny at this point. Luke Smith said a while back that he wanted Destiny to be the game that you could like play with your friends while you were watching the Oscars, like it's like something you can do as like a side activity. Right. And I think that that's like shitty. I don't want that at all.
You don't want that.
Okay. So a caveat, I actually do like that, because sometimes when I have to grind, I'll like put on a TV show and just watch it while I mindlessly grind. But I don't think that's like Gambit. The ideal state of playing.
That's Gambit's for. Yeah.
I don't think that that's like their idea. I don't think that's the ideal state of playing. I think ideally, especially when you're doing like PvE content, you want something that's closer to the Deepstone Crypt Raid, right? Where like you're playing it, but stuff's happening, like there's stories unfolding, and you're kind of being taken on this cool adventure while you play. I think that we need to get closer to that. So yeah, that's my first criticism, is more stuff needs to happen during. And my second criticism is I hate that all of the major plot points happen off screen. And I mean off screen, like completely off screen, like the fact that Osiris lost his ghost in like lore, and it's just completely gone. Like all that stuff about all the cool stuff that's happened with the Crow. We have like this Crow character who's awesome. I will say I loved it in Season of the Hunt. We actually saw the interaction with the spider, and we got to get him off the leash. Like that is what I'm talking about. Like that was really cool, because that actually happened in the game. But there's so much cool stuff in the Destiny world that they keep at the periphery, and I think it's because they're afraid of scaring away the casual audience that wants to skip every cutscene. But newsflash, Bungie, like you can put a skip cutscene button for those people and still leave room for people like us who actually want to see it. So I'm loving it so far. I'm really excited to see where it goes. And then if I can just jump to your second question, which was how do I think it's going to end? I think something's going up with, I don't know if Keidel's tweets are canon, that she said, if I killed Zavala, I'd do it looking him in the eyes. But that sort of implies that she didn't send the Scion to assassinate Zavala. And if that's the case, the question is who did it? I was making an argument on Fireteam chat today that it could be Amtech, which they laughed at because nobody knows who Amtech is, which fair point. Nobody knows who Amtech is. For those of you who don't know and are watching the show, she's the 4th Scion sister from Season of the Dawn, where we were fighting those 3 magical Scions. And she is sort of like a renegade force right now within the Cabal, and possibly might have incentive to undermine Keitel. So that would be a good way to eliminate her own enemy by pissing off the Guardians and sending them after her. But I think probably a more likely story, because there's been setup for it, is that Savathun has something to do with it. And possibly is like playing these dominoes, because it's in Savathun's interest, if she's going to attack us, to divide us, right? And to not let us ally with the Cabal. And I think that would be an interesting plot point. I don't think they'll do it. I think we'll just kill, Keitel's big Colossus monster next week, and then Keitel will bend the knee, and that'll be the end of it. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope they surprise us, and I hope they start doing more stuff in the actual game. I would just love that. So.
No, you're on fire, man. I mean, I'm with you. I think, E said it best. It's literally a routine of me logging in on Tuesday. What's going to happen? And it's different for me from Destiny, because usually Tuesday, the reset day, I have my own specific agendas for stuff. But I ain't going to run. I race over to the helm. I want to see what's going on. I completely agree with you. I think they can do more. But, I'm a huge voice actor guy. I love the fact that we're getting multiple people involved in a season. Because to me, the prior cadence was always focus on one or two. This is the era season. This is the season of the Drifter, where it's just this one. And then in my mind, I'm always like, well, what the hell is Saladin doing? I'm learning now, he chose not to help in the Red War. He has regrets. You're learning about the relationship with Amanda. I don't know if you caught it, but there was a crazy voice joint this week where it was like Crow and Amanda's like, talking about the loss of Cade and how that affected her. And he's like, yeah, I wish I would have met him. And I'm like, oh boy, this going to get interesting. And she's like, yeah, you need to come into the tower. We need to have a drink.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, this going to get interesting. Do tell, right? So it's stuff like that. And I'm loving, again, multiple things. You got the Osiris kind of mentoring Crow in a way. You know what I'm saying? Yo, you shouldn't have did this. You should have did that. I'm trying to be a better guardian. And the thing I like, and I've been, really hard on them about Saladin only being the weekly Iron Band event vendor and acting like he has no major role in the overarching story.
That changed this season.
Yeah, finally. Like, I'm learning about Saladin. What was he doing? Why does he feel this way? And he's just going rogue. Yo,
he wants to kill every Cabal who ever lived. It's hilarious.
Bro, he is like, forget this diplomacy. They tried to assassinate. Then he's like, Zavala soft. Like he's just in his bag. I love where Saladin is going this whole thing. My only little nitpick is I'm being greedy. I would like to know where Saint is, and I agree with what he's doing, what he's thinking. You know what I'm saying? And I agree with Travis. Like, too many of the stuff is off screen, right? I shouldn't have to always read a lore piece to know, like you said, Osiris Ghost died. Like, what's going on with Saint? And I think. I don't know if it's Bearded Luke or someone we had on, who said it best and helped me actually understand, why they're doing that. And I think what was said was that a lot of the stuff you notice that happens off tends to be darker stuff. People dying, like just very more dark. And I think it was Bearded Luke. And he was just like, a lot of it comes down to, I forget, Destiny is a teen-rated game. So I think a lot of it comes down to what they feel they can get away with for this age group audience. And then anything they may want to go deeper, they do off screen. Now, I don't like it. I'm not trying to make excuse for it. I still feel there's a better happy medium. I still feel like Travis said, I would love for Guardians to drop in strike. You know what I mean? While we in the closest I think I've ever felt was Curse of Osiris, with Osiris when you're fighting Panaptes and he's in the mix with you. Like, we want to see more. Like Saint 14, he's got the bubble out, and you want to see that they're so close. But in their defense, this has been exciting to me. I really like the tune in. There's a tune in next week, cartoon kind of vibe. You know what I'm saying? But they're utilizing a little bit more improvement with certain things. But if they keep this, I'm a guy that really values narrative. I love it. I care about these characters. We've been in with them so long. You know what I'm saying? And to know motivations, to know everything's not this big happy family, to know people are arguing. And then we know the eventual reveal with Crow. That mask came off a couple times. Like it's getting there. And I want to know how they handle it. And shout out to the narrative team. Like I said, as much as I give them crap and stuff like that with cohesion and going into a raid and stuff like that, they're getting into a nice pocket. And I just hope it continues. And that's probably the strength where I agree with Travis, that why I love this season too much. Besides the fact that I think Battlegrounds is way too many. I love Battlegrounds, but way too many Battlegrounds I got to do.
No, and I was like, I actually wanted to take what you said as well, is when you're in Battlegrounds, when you finish them up, you have 60 seconds. Why? Because there's usually voice dialogue at the end. There's a little bit as you go through, and you learn a little bit about these characters.
Yes.
And it is a very delicate line for them to walk to say, here's the voice acting lines in this Battleground. Cool. I learned a little bit more about these characters. When I run my 12,000th Battleground, do I give a shit about the characters anymore? Do I and that's kind of as you said, if they continue to build those lines in there, some of that's going to get missed. There are people who just check out of Battlegrounds and be like, I am done. So the fact that you have to go, so they're trying to use the activity to tell the story, which is not a bad thing. Like if they did that in a bit more of an organic way, again, I don't know how they delicately walk that, because it's like, if I need to play 5 every week just to hear everything, it's the same thing. Like, and it's for 12 weeks. You got to go and do 5 Battlegrounds. I'm like, that's too damn many after a while. It's like 60 Battlegrounds later. I get it. Okay, I've heard some stuff. Most people are probably tuning out halfway through that run.
Right. Yeah. But they've just never gotten it right.
Yeah. It's like, and I don't know how they're getting closer with, like, I loved seeing Zavala, Saladin, Osiris talking, going back and forth over the table. I was like,
I love it.
That's sitting in front of me on screen. Now, granted, please. Sorry, this is my Bungie please for the week.
Let's go.
Can you fix like the proximity volume? If I look at him and then if I turn away, it lowers his volume. Stop that. Please just like make it in the room. However you do audio design, just fill the room. However you got to do it. I don't know. That's my one. Just make sure it's not directional audio. Where I'm looking.
I think they've come a long ways from giving you the story while you're loading into the strike. You know, that was like their original solution, and I think everybody was like, "This is bad," but also loading times on the 360
facilitated.
I mean, Xbox One, like they're kind of making the best of a bad situation, but I think they've gotten to a point where, I think they're starting to realize that like people love like the story, or at least care about it, or at least their fan base that remains still does. Yeah, there's still ways to get it to stop it. There's still ways for people to skip if they want, but I've always wondered, like, why isn't there like a raid mechanic where it relies on, you know, Eris Morn like throwing down like a pool for you guys to like all step in, or, you know, something like that, where like the characters are helping you in the world, because they already have so many mechanics in the raid that seem like they're out of nowhere. It's like, oh hey, this thing happened and now there's bombs spawning and you need to go and put the bombs in the box, you know? And I'm like, why isn't there just like, you know, some character pulling a lever who's like messing with you guys that you can see? And like, why don't they use that to like build up, you know, and they could do that for like mechanics that help you too. Like have like a Korra show up and help you with a certain mechanic in a raid, and she's kind of like playing with you, and she does something that like triggers part of the puzzle that gets you to damage phase or whatever. Like it seems so obvious, but again, you know, like I'm not a developer. I'm sure it's way harder than it actually is. And I'm sure there's risks, but I think you're right. Cog. I think the main thing that's holding them back is that they're afraid of scaring people away. Like I think that's what it comes down to. And I don't buy the whole teen rating thing. By the way, dude, we saw Cade 6 just get like massacred on his back, like point blank.
It was actually off screen.
It's like a Disney. Really like they looked at the gun.
His jaws like hanging off. You know, it's,
but they don't.
He's also not human.
That's right. He's not human.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, technically, everything that's died. We saw the speaker die off screen. That was terrible.
Off screen. No one died on screen. Really? Who really
even
died
picture when you shoot a fall and their head goes into like wispy vapors. Like,
bro, it's the teen.
So you can't do that in a cutscene.
They have yet to do it. I don't know. I think it was Bidlu. I made me think about it. I said, yo, he's right. Who do we really see on screen get mangled or anything vicious that we're like, oh my God.
I get that it's dark. They've done dark stuff. The speaker got tortured. He's a human. He got killed off screen, but he still was a cutscene. I think their fear isn't really content. I think their fear is that the lore in Destiny is super dense. Most people have no idea what's going on in Destiny. Right. Every time they've tried to do something deep, like the audience has just been lost. Like I played the Destiny 2 vanilla campaign with somebody who's never played it before, right before it got taken out and put into the vault. And she was just like, I have no clue what's happening. And I was just like, yep, I'm sorry. I could explain it to you. And she was like, I'm good on that one. So, you know, I think the main thing is that like it's just intimidating. It's dense. There's just so much to explain. It's extremely specific and like nerdy. And I think it's easy to get scared or to just make it optional. And that's what they've been doing is they've just been making it optional. All these years.
Chat made a good point. They did say, didn't that one Cabal? Oh yeah, the console, Dominus Gold's console. I think he did choke him.
He gets choked.
He got
That's
choked.
right. But again, not human, right?
Yeah,
He's a
not human.
gargoyle.
Yeah, not human. Not human.
Gargoyle.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like to me. That guy.
does.
I
that
thought
guy was
that guy
creepy.
was going to be.
Yeah.
I really thought that guy was going to be the main villain and like Gaul.
Yeah, I
was
thought
gonna
he was
like
gonna be
you had
around.
an Emperor Palpatine. You were projecting Emperor Palpatine is what you were doing.
That's what I was doing. I thought Gaul was gonna get like Etu Brute,
Yeah,
and
me
this
too.
creepy wizard was gonna like use his medallion or something, and it wasn't that at all. And
Go for the
poor
the
speaker-
jugular.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I actually have a Star Wars analogy for this because I've been
okay.
brewing on this
I'm
for a
There we
while.
go. Full attention.
So
Podcast about to shift.
so when
Get
you
ready,
watch,
hey, Cog and E, you guys can take like a water break or whatever.
you can take 5. You too.
so when you watch Star Wars, and I'm just gonna use the first 6 movies because the sequel trilogy kind of exists on its own. Like you don't have to watch that to understand the Skywalker saga. When you watch the 6 movies, the movies give you enough knowledge to ascertain like what's happening and the story. Are they amazing or perfect? No, but like at least they give you the foundational understanding of this is the universe, these are the rules of the universe, and this is what happens. And if you want to go into the expanded stuff, the comics or the books or the TV shows, that's where kind of you can get that supplementary knowledge that either enhances what you've already seen on screen on the movies or gives you a new perspective, especially in the case of like the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars is all about different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Destiny is kind of the opposite, where Destiny, here's the game. We're not going to give you the base knowledge and understanding you need of the game, but it's all there. It's just originally it was Grimoire cards and now it's lore. And that's fine. Like I think if you're someone that enjoys that, is it the best solution? No, I don't think so. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on whether their multimedia strategy now that they just announced, I think last month or the month before, I can't remember, where they basically said we're getting a new studio, we're going to have different avenues of stuff, whatever. I wonder if their strategy in the future, maybe 2, 3, 4 years down the road, is here's this TV show, kind of like what the Clone Wars did,
I
that
agree.
supplements it. And here's where Sagira died. Here's this whole arc on Osiris, 4 episodes of Osiris going and trying to figure out what Savathun's doing. And, Sagira just died, and that's the end of the arc, right? And that kind of gives you that background context, because the Clone Wars did that for Star Wars. It gave you such a better understanding of what was actually happening. And when you think about it, the prequels are actually an amazing vision that George Lucas had. It was just executed super poorly on screen. But the Clone Wars like justified all of it. It made almost all of it relevant and important, aside from Jar Jar Binks. I don't think you can fix that.
Yeah, we
but
can't
like,
fix
And it redeems Darth Maul, which I think is
it did redeem Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they made a whole new
such
character,
a throwaway
Ahsoka.
character.
Like Ahsoka's an incredible character, despite people not liking her in the beginning. I think her arc is just so important. And obviously it's connected with Anakin as well, but like it's just such an important thing. And I think Destiny's kind of missing that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a TV show. Like if they released a Halo style book about Destiny that was like the story of the Iron Lords, right? And this is this amazing narrative. I'd go read that, right? Like, and it's nothing. It doesn't necessarily have to give you new knowledge, because all that story has already been documented in the Grimoire somewhere in the lore. But it gives you a different perspective or more context to the events that have already happened, and that just makes you appreciate when Saladin gets pissed at Zavala a little bit more, right? It gives that moment more gravitas.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see what you guys think. If that maybe that's their solution going forward. Is we have this kind of base seasonal model that's gotten better since it's like Season of the Rivals. Basically has the same model we had now, where you have the same activity you're kind of doing, and it's delivering the narrative through the activity. And there's a lot of stuff packed in there, but it's not enough, and a lot of it happens off screen or it's just dialogue. So I'm curious to see what you guys think. If maybe that's their solution, or maybe there's another solution.
It's like,
what do you think?
I was just gonna say, for me, it's stuff like when you take the Books of Sorrow to figure out about Oryx, the depth that you can go to understand.
Incredible story.
Yeah, the depth you get of his background, that is like really, really, really cool. And that's like one of Bice's videos was like, the lore of Oryx is better, but the story of Keitel is better because it's in-game in front of you. And I think that's the balance of what they're doing now with the in-game voice dialogue, seeing the three of them talking. More of that is what I really want to see in the game. And then if you want a supplemental piece to say, hey, this is what, these are the tales of Lord Saladin and the Iron Lords. This is, the adventures of Osiris through the corridors of time. What those would be like amazing offshoots, TV shows to give depth to the characters. And you go back and you're like, that, that makes sense. But also when you go back to the game, if this is going to be the foundation of it, that stuff can't be completely out of context. We still need a little bit of hey, the little storyboard cinematic of, hey, Osiris has been going through time. He went over here. He's been looking for this. Like a little bit of what's understanding. He got into this crazy, blew all his supers. Segura killed him. Like that stuff does still need to be shown for major plot points like that. But I think the depth of a Book of Sorrows or a history of the Iron Lords, that stuff, I would love to see that in the other venues, like a comic, as you said, the books, TV shows. Like Destiny is ripe for just an infinite number of TV shows about all the characters, the history. Like you could do the character Saint 14, like what he went through, like his timelines, and then go back. They could screw a WandaVision with him or something. There's a lot you could do. Now, granted, is everybody gonna love it? I don't know, but it's there's a lot that I would be entertained by. But I think as long as the game is the foundation of where all this is coming from, the main story beats still need to be presented visually in front of us in some way, not buried in an article on the Bungie blog. So
I agree. I think the last point, I think I'm leaning to what you call it, saying it in a sense, Teddy's saying in reference to, I think that's their overall arcing plan. I think the elevation of Luke and Mark Noseworthy to this, I call it the Kevin Feige status of the universe, you know what I'm saying? Because they are looking to expand this thing into different medias, whether it's movies, series, animated series or whatever. And I think that is the long play. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, we know that they've done extremely well, recently, you know what I'm saying? When we found out about this expansion and then, the publishing studio and stuff like that, we've been following the Twitter accounts. You see them yelling out from the top of their lungs, Bungie, like there's this unified, decree internally. Like the vibe I get is they are feeling good about what the future holds. So when I see that, and then I see this elevation, and now Blackburn now is our day-to-day, in a sense, Luke Smith, and Luke Smith and knows where to go up there. I think that's the vision. But it's going to be this balance, right? Where they're going to have to tell these stories, and we have this great lore. But I do agree with E, not everything should be just reserved or beholden to that. They have to still find that balance in game, where we are just not completely missed out. And it's oh, you didn't read the anthology, or you didn't watch the comic. It can't be everything in these different mediums, you know what I'm saying? So and that's the fine line that they're going to have to navigate, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's the eventual plan. I think this game is super rich with lore. I don't know if you guys seen, shout out to Paul Tassi, there's this big craze in the community. I just got wise to about
plague.
I didn't even know about this whole plague thing, and everybody wants Siva to come back, and all this stuff, and it's pretty cool. So it goes to show you the lore is there. The lore is rich. There's a lot of things they can do, a lot of possibilities, and it's just a matter of how they handle it and the mediums they choose. But again, that healthy balance, cool side project, cool stuff, but also major plot points, stuff like that. It can't all be buried in the external stuff. That's my own thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to take you guys to Sci-Fi Church now. Okay. So, so I think about this a lot. Like my brain when it comes to Destiny is 30% PvP. And then the other 70% is me thinking about where Destiny fits in the sci-fi storytelling lexicon.
Let's go.
And I have really pessimistic views about Destiny's future when it comes to this, because unfortunately, obviously I want them to succeed. I'm going to watch whatever content they come out with, but I just am worried about it. And the reason is because shows like the Clone Wars and comic books and that sort of stuff, it only works if the core content is something that people care about. And I think people care about Destiny as a game, but I don't think that there's a lot of people who care about Destiny on a character storytelling level. Unfortunately, I'm in the minority. I'm on Fireteam Chat and I'm the only guy who reads the lore, right? That's just the the reality of the situation. There's not a ton of us. There's not a ton of bifes in the world.
Yeah, good point.
And I think in science fiction, I'm a huge like student of science fiction. There's sort of two schools of thought. There's the hard sci-fi like Star Trek, and those shows are designed to answer the questions of how when it comes to science fiction. We want to know like how the world works. What are we gonna? What is the world gonna look like in the future? How are we going to exist? What will society look like? Right? Like it's those questions of like how will things work? Right? And then there's stuff like Star Wars and Destiny that are in the space opera category, and they answer questions of why. Like you don't care about like how Luke Skywalker flew across the galaxy in half a second. You care about like why he's doing it. You care about like why this war is happening. It's like an emotional, very human sort of reason you're doing it. And despite being a huge science fiction junkie, I really like space opera because of the way that it humanizes those questions and it makes you ask why. And I think that Destiny is really bad at answering those questions of why. Most people don't know why we're doing things. We don't know why the Taken King wants to conquer humanity, right? Like you can if you look into the lore, but I think unless you're answering those questions in like daylight where a lot of the community sees it, it's really hard for people to attach and care about those things. And they're just not good at answering questions of why. And this is another thing like Teddy and I talk about this a lot because we're big fans of Star Wars, and including some of the prequels, namely the sequels, namely The Last Jedi, where there's like this attitude in the Star Wars community where people go like, oh, like how could Princess Leia survive in space and all that bullshit? Like this is, ridiculous. And to me, I'm like, you're watching the wrong thing, dude. It's space with aliens using lightsabers to like dance around each other. Like, what the hell are you like? Really? You want it? That's your question? Like you're asking the wrong question.
An old man shoots lightning out of his hands.
Yeah, an old man shoots lightning out of his hands, but I want to know how she's surviving in space. It's those questions that really take away from what Star Wars is there for. And I think what Destiny should be there for, which is answering those questions of like, why? Like, why do humans want to continue living in the world of Destiny? Why is it important to keep humanity alive? Why is the light important? Why is the dark bad? And I think those questions of why in Destiny are really put off to the side. And I think what's even worse is that in Destiny, we also don't get the Star Trek what, right? Like the hard sci-fi. We don't get like that take on it either. So there's sort of like this very surface level, because it's space opera, we don't have to explain anything. To a certain extent, that is true. You don't have to explain how or what, but you do have to explain why. Like that's crucial in space opera. You have to make people care on an emotional level, or it's just Avatar. It's just like something that nobody cares about, right? It's just this silly, like Edward Scissorhands, like who cares? It's funny. Like I don't, and that's not what attracts fan bases. People love Star Wars because it makes them feel and it makes them ask the questions of why, and they relate to those characters. And Star Wars is decorated with the science fiction stuff, but that's not really what it's about. Destiny isn't. It shouldn't be about the Taken, or it shouldn't be about space wizards. It should be about characters that make you feel something. And I think Destiny has a lot of development to do before we care about like comic books or TV shows. And I just don't think we're there yet. So that's me. Obviously, I think it's like a super uphill battle. It's really hard to become a Star Wars. They earned that reputation over 40 years, but like, 30 years, but coming on 40. I think that they have to fight that one day at a time. And I'm sure TV shows will help, but I honestly don't think that a TV show would do great given where Destiny's story is and how much its player base really cares about it right now.
No, it's
so
a fair
question
assessment.
I wanted to ask. So do you think more people, for those who played Destiny 1 versus Destiny 2, do you think more people had a better understanding of the vagueness of Destiny 1's story? Or do you think people got more of Destiny 2's drip story? Which one do you think is a better way to deliver a story for what you're saying, like a general audience to come into being a fan base? Like, I want to see, something about Saladin because we got to see him in, fill in the blank. How do you think it's better to build that fan base? Do you think it is the old, or do you think it is the new?
I think the new way of doing it is probably the future. I just think it needs to be way more digestible because Destiny 1 got something right in that it was short enough to be digestible. Like everyone understood what was happening in the Taken King. I feel like there were some like after you kill the Taken King and then he takes himself and you're like, what the heck? What did you just do? And then I remember after the credits, you get that Eris Morn cutscene and everyone in the community was like, oh my God, Eris Morn's betraying us. And that's just not at all what was happening. Remember? So there were like parts of it where people were like, I don't really understand what's going on. But I think on the whole, like the storytelling was simple enough to where people were like, all right, I get it. Destiny 2 has a problem where it's doing a better job at telling the story, but it's just suffering from bloat. There's so many characters. There's so many different factions and Keitel versus Callus versus Gaul versus, you have to break it down in like 50 different ways. And you really, you need Bife to be there to even understand what the hell is going on. Right. Like, and I think that's a new problem for Destiny in a certain way. So I think what they have to do is just like, pull back and tell like a smaller story and just build on that. I think they did a great job with Forsaken. Forsaken does sort of get into like nonsense land once you get to like the Uldren Sov and the Dreaming City and it kind of becomes harder to follow. But I think the core story of, hey, there's this guy you really care about who's really cool, voice acted by a really charismatic guy that everybody knows, and he gets killed and you're on a revenge story. I think like that's like instantly everyone understands what that is and they're pulled in. And I remember lots of my friends who had signed off from Destiny and said, I'm not going to play again. They came back when, their buddy Cade 6 got killed. Like that drew people in. And I think that's how you focus it, right? Just focus on small human stories, do the work, develop the characters, make people actually care about those people. And I think you do that on a long enough timeline and you've got yourself a franchise, but they just haven't, in my opinion, put in the work to do that yet.
Yeah.
Either of you guys?
That's your explanation about sci-fi was really good because I think asking the question why is it's just like fundamentally the most important human question you can ask. Like sci-fi aside, like that's just a philosophical thing. It's really good. That's a really good analogy. But to your point, I absolutely agree with you. I think Destiny 1 nailed something where you sort of had these bite-sized stories that you could consume. But I think Destiny 2, aside from the blow problem, also suffers from a different problem, which is that you cannot experience certain things that have existed in Destiny 2 anymore, especially now with sunsetting.
Good point.
You
lose context.
I talked to my brother about this a lot. When you boot up Halo 2 or Halo 1 or even Halo 3, you experience all of it exactly the way it was, one patch or update aside, right? That is the way the game was released, and that is and that's the way it is. Now, live service game different.
I was thinking about it.
Different era. But
re-record.
Like we went and played Destiny 1 last week or earlier this week to play Vault of Glass, just to kind of get a feel for what's going on. And it brought up another discussion with my brother that I have pretty frequently with him, which is like you can boot up Destiny 1, and besides the seasonal events that happened, which you can actually boot up SRL at least through private matches, you can experience everything that Destiny 1 had to offer. It's not all fundamentally the same because we had balance patches and different things got updated and stuff changed. I guess Iron Banner as well can never exist, or Trials. But like besides those three things, you can experience everything the way that it was left in that game. Destiny 2, especially now with Beyond Light coming out, you can't do that. You cannot experience the Red War. So if you're a player that comes in right now and a character talks about the Red War, Saladin's like, I regret not fighting in the Red War. And you're like, what the hell is the Red War? What is that? Like what's going on with this? And I guess maybe the onus is on the person to be like, I should Google what the Red War is and find the Bife video where he explains that. But I just feel like that doesn't happen, right? Like
there needs to be something in the game. Somebody said it in chat too, a way to go back and replay cinematics, a way for them to, fill in the holes that the game would have had to be like, this content is no longer in the game, but this is story that was in there. And maybe it's even an optional download if they're worried about the damn size of your game because cinematics can be bigger.
I mean, Halo Master Chief Collection does that. Where each section of the game is an optional. Yeah, you don't have to download multiplayer. You could just download its campaign, or vice versa. Or I think it even gives you the option for languages too, which is kind of nuts. But like think about the seasonal model for a second. Yeah, it's great that finally this year all the seasons go throughout the whole year, but you can't play anything from the Rasputin season last year, and that's like a fundamentally super important season. Right. And like if you just started the game today, right now, you have no idea that happened. Like that.
I gotta catch you because you're on fire.
The other thing
good.
is that like because it's week to week, you can't have somebody log on and finish the arc and then go, okay, I get it. I played the Taken King. You have to get them to come in every week, and then over like a 30-week period or however long seasons last these days, then they complete the arc. And like I think the appetite in the player base to like do that, it's the Teddys of the world, it's the Cogs of the world, but there's only so many of those. They're never gonna draw in a mass audience based on like piecemeal stuff. So I think there needs to be larger narrative blocks that can be enjoyed all at once and hopefully are there for longer than one season.
You guys are on fire because of two things I want to acknowledge. One, I want to shout out Destin, because one thing that he does with his channel is he puts the lore pieces every week, or anytime Destiny does anything, he puts those cinematics or narrative beats in a video, right? It's funny you guys have mentioned, especially Teddy, you're on fire, because shout out to Randall Thor, who is actually on the Mass Effect 2 team, by the way. But
nice.
Yeah, so he is concentrating, and he gives me crap. He's like, Destiny's garbage. Like he's been fighting me on Destiny for years. He was like, I hate that game. I love Bungie, but I hate that game. It's bad now, whatever. So finally, since Beyond Light, and finally since it's in Game Pass, I'm like, you got no excuse now. It's in Game Pass. It's free. Come on, right? So he's like, all right, Cog, I'll do all right. So me and Forte have been begrudgingly dragging this man in. So he's like, okay, so where do I start if we're going to have to play it? Kind of thing. And now Red War is gone, right? So he doesn't have that context, right? And then he's like, okay, well, we said, well, we'll do Forsaken and then get him to Shadowkeep. So we're doing Forsaken, right? And he's like, wait a minute. Ain't that guy, I saw that guy, like Aldrin, right? In other parts of the game, because he has this, we gifted him the battle pass or whatever it is, right? So you get to see Crow a little bit. So it's so convoluted for the new player to jump in, to get a true understanding. Now, don't get me wrong, he enjoyed the Forsaken campaign when we did it, right? And I was like, look, we're going to conclude this by doing the Last Wish raid so you can see thematically where this thing led to. And I said, we got to get you to the Dreaming City so you can understand. And then he loved it. He was like, wow, this is beautiful stuff. He was like, he said, I have to admit. But again, giving him the I'm sitting there having to explain. He's like, well, what does this mean? And who's Gaul? And what is she talking about with the Red War and all this other stuff? Well, we did a Battlegrounds, because again, everything's out of sequence. Everything's all over the place. You know what I'm saying? That's the only problem. I understand why they did the a la carte method, so that people don't feel left behind to do the new content. But from a narrative standpoint, it sucks. Like, you don't know what's going on. He was like, I got all these icons. I don't know where to start. Like, should I be doing this first? And then the game doesn't even give you like a sequence of like how you should do it, right? It's still so far behind until the final point. Like you said, Ted, you made a great point. There should be some type of kiosk, repository, something, right? Because I'm playing Forsaken, I'm like, oh man, I don't even remember that cinema when we did this. I don't even remember how we unlocked the Dreaming City. I'm seeing stuff that we did one time.
Yep.
And there's no way to replay it. There's no way to go back to see it. And that's a problem. Like, you have these great story beats, and there's just no cohesion, especially for the new guy. And I think that's going to be there probably still. I know the New Light and the, what's your man name, and the Cosmotron, the Hunter, the
Shaun.
new made up Hunter.
We'll get to Fast and Furious here.
We'll get to Fast and Furious soon enough.
Fortnite guy.
Shaun, you know what I'm saying? I know that was a first attempt. But narratively, they are. I felt bad. I was actually questioning my own game. I'm like, damn, this game is cool, but my man don't really know what's going on unless I sit there and have a college course discussion about the narrative prior to him missing. Like, that's how I had to do it.
Destiny Forsaken 256. All right, sit down, get out your notepads.
I think that's kind of always just been Destiny's problem, right? Which is well, okay. So first of all, the New Light experience has gotten a lot better. Is it amazing? Absolutely not. I actually just finished all the New Light stuff a couple weeks ago, and it's definitely an improvement from Shadowkeep's New Light experience. But to your point, like, so over the course of Destiny's history, I've gotten friends into the game just like you, and varying ranges of skill level.
Got them hooked.
Yeah, and they all like the game after they start playing it, but then you gotta. There's just so much to explain, and you don't actually think about how much you have to explain because we just do it, right? We're like, oh, it's the power leveling. Okay, I got to do this, this, and this. But then you like sit down and actually explain it to someone, and you sound like a madman.
You sound
like,
great. Wow.
Yeah, you sound crazy. You're like,
when I did my leveling.
So you got to do
video.
this first, and then this, and then this. But you can't do this. Hold on, and then this. But wait, hold on. If you get this to drop, then you can't do like it. Yeah. And for us, it's like, oh, that's just normal. Like we've been doing this for 7 years. But for them, it's like, what the hell, man? I'm not playing this crap. I'm going to go back to Borderlands. It's just, I don't know how you solve that problem. The icon thing, that gets everyone. I think everyone that starts the game, it's like you see the director, and you're like, holy crap, what am I looking at?
My explaining the season is 30 minutes long. Now, granted, I'm long-winded. I get that. But there's a lot of people that were
I don't think that's enough. No, I think you need to go more.
I was like, and that's honestly a point where it's like, I try and condense it down, but I know I'm long-winded. So it's like, but I try and go detail of like, here's the power leveling. This is how this works. This is your power gear. This is the artifact. And I try and like, if you're new to the season, here's where you start when you log in if you haven't played in a while. Here's where you're going, powerful pinnacle, that stuff. And I'm like, I tried to get it under about 30 minutes and I was like 32. I'm like, I'm done. But I was like, that's a lot to cram in of like, this is how you have to play. I'm like, people who get to this be like, I haven't played in a while. Thank you. Is like, this is a really good explanation. I'm like, I'm glad you enjoyed a 30-minute video. I'm sorry it took me 30 minutes to get it to you. Like, that's not like log in, kill stuff, level up. Like, how does that have to be 30 minutes long? But it is.
It is.
I would love it if like our guardians in game experienced the same level of confusion, because you think of it from their perspective, they're waking up like they died thousands of years ago, and then they wake up and it's like, welcome, you're in the future, you're a guardian, and then your ghost is like, okay, the thing you need to know about your vault is we only have so much space, and like the guardian's just like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what? You know. I would love it if there was some sort of tutorial system where it's just your ghost going, all right, this is really going to throw you for a loop, but energy, primary, and power ammo versus kinetic, you know, it just goes over that, you know.
All right, so there's this tincture you're going to drink and get really high, and then you're going to see this magical power.
It's great.
Just trust me, it's going to be okay.
Bro, but it only works in this one place.
It only works in this one place, though.
In a couple places.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, E and I were talking before the show about how the crow in a cutscene last week, not a cutscene, it's when you go and you talk to him. He talks about how he knows what it's like to be under control by another like entity and like not be able to control your own actions. And I was like, wait, I thought he was Aldrin and then he died and became a guardian, so he's not supposed to have any memory, which means like he has memory of like being Aldrin Sov, which means I think it would be great if our guardian got some memory of who we were before, you know. I was talking to E, like, you know, we worked at like a Wendy's, you know, we were just flipping patties and we died of cardiac arrest, and then like, you know, 70,000 years later we get woken up in the guardian. Like, I just want to know who we are, because we were on the freeway in Russia, right? We were going somewhere, maybe we were visiting Russia on vacation with our family. I want a backstory for our guardian, and I want it to be very disappointing. I want it to be like I want it to be just like, you were just a nobody, you're just some guy going home and eating like a frozen dinner, and that was just your life before all of this, because you wouldn't know, right? Like, I don't know how far. Is there a cutoff point? Like, did you have to die after the golden age to become a guardian, or are there people who like died in like 1812 and they became guardians like way later? I want to know the rules. They need to be specific. This is my Bungie. This is
the Star Trek. This is the how. This is the Star Trek how.
This is the Star Trek how. I just need to know the rules here, really.
Okay, so question. I'm going to go through some of the NPCs. I want to know what each of you think they will be, or what they used to be in their old life.
Before they died and became a guardian. Right, I got this. I got this.
Okay, so whoever wants to chime in, or if you got multiple ideas, go. First one's going to be Saint 14.
Ooh, Saint 14 was definitely one of those like Euro trash disc jockeys, you know, who like created like electronic music. That's got to be him, right?
A bear wrestler.
Oh, there you go. He worked at a circus or something. That's great.
Okay, Cog, you got anything for him?
For Saint? Oh my god, he just makes me laugh. some type of, I don't know, instructor or something, like, at the gym or something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
There you go, like fitness and he's very encouraging.
Like a
how
trainer.
much of your old self carries over? Like, do you carry your voice and your personality? Like, was Saint Gay before he was a guardian too, and he woke up and still had his gayness?
These are some deep questions.
Totally different.
Exactly.
Because then, like, then the answer's obvious. Like, Cade Six was Nathan Fillion, and then Nathan Fillion in real life died, and then became Cade Six.
That's perfect.
That's like the obvious solution. Like, like
Cade is exactly
so
that.
the ship of Theseus is this bow.
Oh my god!
No, you didn't. That was good. Good.
I saw the top comment on one of our fire team chat videos. It was like, me, Ebontis, and Paul were all on a show, and the top comment on that episode was, "I'm getting real Ship of Theseus vibes from this episode of Fire Team Chat."
Because nobody's the same.
And I was just
I love it.
None of us are the originals. No OGs present.
Okay,
all right,
we might have to go a little faster. Shax.
Ooh. I'm gonna go football player. He was a linebacker.
I'm gonna say male stripper, but that's fine.
Oh my!
Oh, that's good. The speaker was Paul McCartney.
Yes,
literally from the Hope for a Future music video. He was that guy.
What you got for Shax?
Some type of like daycare specialist.
Children.
I don't know.
He's the really fit guy working in a daycare.
He likes kids. Like the kid. He like. I think there's like a Lord thing where he like carries kids around the city, or the kids like frolics or something. I don't know.
I'm rolling with that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Ikora.
Librarian.
Yes, I get that. Shout out my boy Kabatsu. He gets complete bookworm vibes for her. Yeah, I'm with that too. My boy Kai.
My sophomore year chemist teacher.
Bottom stamps all day.
Yes.
Asher Mir.
He's one of my favorites.
Oh, he's one of your favorites. I'm sorry.
I love
he's
Asher Mir. He's always
Asher Mir was Bernie Sanders. That's just who he was.
I don't know if I can beat that one.
I don't know if I can beat that.
Devin K.
Ooh.
Deverin's smooth with it. Devin.
I feel like he was just someone's dad.
Benedict.
Yeah, he's just a regular
dad.
Regular dude vibe.
essay
was in an office,
secret CIA life.
It's weird that you have to think like how much did Aldrin Sov's personality change when he became the Crow? Is he basically the same person? Because he seems like he's very different to me. So
I think. Oh, okay. First of all, Devin's not a guardian, so I think he was just born a human and existed, right? But I think with Aldrin,
you're right. Yeah, correct. So he's just a human that was.
Yeah, he's just a normal person. I think with Aldrin though, I think they intentionally had him rezzed very close to his death because as far as I'm aware, I don't think that's ever happened. And so obviously they're exploring
good point.
Yeah, like the two different people, ship of Theseus thing. Like they're basically that's what they're trying to explore, right? And that's what they're trying to get at.
I think, were we the last Guardian to get resurrected before Aldrin?
No, because lore-wise, new lights come every day through the cosmic drone.
Yeah. So we're just and there's just a ton of ghosts out there looking for their Guardians.
And so we get res basically in a car that was trying to escape in one of the shuttles before the collapse happened. Is essentially like our Guardian's backstory. I think that's what's happening, but. I wonder where they'll go with him specifically because like obviously he has like some recollection of something, but I think that's not normal. And then Anna Bray, I think, is the only Guardian that we know of that actually dug into her past and found out who she was prior to becoming a Guardian. Which
we should figure out who we are. That would be so good. I mean, it would have to have three separate answers because we haven't awoken an Exo and all that.
But according to Zavala, like he forbid any Guardian from digging into their past. And she breaks that rule. So
why? Why did he make that rule?
I don't think they give an explanation.
Like the high school principal or something?
He's Lance Reddick.
He's Lance Reddick, yeah.
He's either Lance Reddick in real life or he was like a cop. I could see him just being a cop.
I could see the cop.
He's got a cop's personality.
Law enforcement of some kind.
Yeah, he was
definitely.
on the wire. Lance Reddick was on the wire.
Yeah, that all comes together.
Teddy Daniels. This is Teddy Daniels, man.
There you go.
Anybody else got any more?
Eris Morn was definitely a street musician. That's my. She did like poetry or like those people who do like art with blood or something. You know,
Oh my
those like
God.
weirdos
She's
who
very
accost you on the
goth,
street.
very goth,
Very
like
goth.
Very
Yeah.
goth.
Yeah.
Yeah, super
Okay.
goth.
trying to think of anybody else who's like guardian status. Is the
The Drifter.
Drifter a guardian?
He is. He's a
Okay.
warlock.
He is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Light bearer.
He definitely like didn't have a job before. Like
He's
just
my
was
uncle.
like,
That's my guy. He's
He's
a
my
hustler.
crazy uncle.
He's a hustler.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
like
he's-
it.
he was
Yeah, I-
either like a scam artist or
Yeah,
you know,
he's-
just
he's
living
a
on the
hustler,
dole
bro.
and with his mom, or he did something. You know,
Mm-hmm.
A grifter, yeah, of some kind for
Mhm.
sure. I like
Worked at a
smuggler, homeless
Blockbuster.
guy.
Mhm.
he worked at the last Blockbuster on Earth. He was the final Blockbuster employee when they finally
can't-
closed the lights down on that.
It's still
I can't
open.
with
The last one's
There's
still out
still
there.
one Blockbuster
There's still,
left.
it's an Airbnb
Really?
now, but it's still there.
That's right.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's one
I
Blockbuster.
forgot about that.
He,
Yeah.
I forgot
he
about
runs that Blockbuster currently.
He is the manager at the Blockbuster.
I'm
Yeah.
done with. I'm done with y'all.
Well, that was entertaining.
that
For
was
those of you
fun.
guys who have been watching, I think we're probably transitioning out of real Destiny chat and into other things. So as long as these gentlemen want to stay around and chat, as for the TWAB, Grandmasters are here, Iron Banner's next week. Please be a decent human being, and by the tweet, Trials is back. Did I miss anything on the TWAB?
You got
Yeah, it's
that Eyes of
pretty
Tomorrow
light.
bug.
Eyes of
We didn't
Tomorrow
talk
bug.
about
Sorry,
the
yeah.
drop-
If you
the-
didn't get Eyes of Tomorrow, play next week.
Drop rate, which we didn't talk about, but that was
Still
huge.
haven't gotten it.
Yeah, them acknowledging, the whole account thing versus, the individual player aspect. Go ahead, Teddy.
Actually,
Well, I
yeah,
did
so-
it
so-
on one character
Okay.
this whole time, so it didn't
Mhm.
affect me. I just
It didn't affect
got
you.
unlucky. Yeah.
So they explained the problem with this specific instance, but we didn't talk about the blog they put out I think last week that was like going into detail on another
enemy,
bug.
enemy
Which I'm-
density and all that stuff.
Yes. Did you talk about the teleportation part?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I forgot the
That
blog
was on
update
the
was
blog,
on.
though. That wasn't a separate article.
No. They put out a completely separate blog. It was like a tech blog that they started to basically explain how bugs work. And they got like a designer or someone to explain it. And I've been asking for this for years. Like I used to binge their GDC talks
Remember that?
because I just wanted to understand how certain things worked in Destiny, and that's like the closest I could get without actually talking to them. I should look up the blog now, but like, the blog, it went into some bug explanation, and I just liked that. And they did the same thing in the TWAB for this Eyes of Tomorrow thing. And when they
went deep
explain
with it.
things,
Yeah.
when they explain stuff, this is a fundamental life philosophy I have. If you give people the opportunity to understand something or to ask the why and then come to a conclusion themselves, they will generally be more accepting of that
Ding, ding,
conclusion,
ding.
even if they maybe disagree with it. It's just human nature for that to happen. So Bungie's kind of always been very tight-knit about like how certain things work or why certain things happen. And I, as a person that just likes to ask those questions, and I'm not alone in this regard, like, just tell me, if you just explain to me how it works, I will be way less upset about like 99% of the things that I'm mad about in this game. And so I'm happy that they're starting that finally.
Yes.
Do I want more? Absolutely. Give me the numbers. Give me the hard math that I can,
My
take
guess
my
is that
abacus
they probably
and do it.
just don't like the answers to some of the whys, and it's one of those things.
I mean, probably, I guess, but like, yeah, it's just,
You gain nothing by telling somebody the why if the why is like, sorry, it's just gonna lose you points.
that's what you guys were talking about when it comes to the teleporting enemies. It was just the fact that there were literally too many enemies in the game. It was like kind of the brief summary, like to sum it up. And it's like, that begs the question of like, okay, so we had the D1 strikes that were limited in certain ways. Now we have more enemy density and you're kind of breaking your game. Again, these lead me to the questions of what the next 3 years are going to be like. Because it does make me wonder of like how much they can do within, the bounds of the systems they've built. So I will be very curious to see, honestly, what comes over this giant revelation that is Witch Queen. Is it all story and the mechanics feel the same? Or can they, when do they start pushing next gen over the next 3 years? Like, is the Destiny 3, whatever, post the 10-year saga, is that our next gen game? And this is still going to maintain the same systems over the next 3 years. I know they do some behind the scenes stuff, but we also still hear about the spaghetti code. And again, enemy density in a strike was breaking stuff. And you're like, how much longer do things continue to last? How big of a break has to happen before, we see something like, yeah, we're going to try and limp along, or we have a big fix incoming. And I just kind of wonder when some big system is going to change. So because people are loving the enemy density, but if it
Me
also
too, I
breaks
love
the
it.
game, it's kind of a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got that, and then combine that with the inbound, cross plays coming.
Yeah.
There's a lot of systems they got to deal with. Obviously, we've seen them struggle with this whole trials thing with the rejoining game, and then shout out, Dylan having to try to explain why it was such a nasty bug and why they didn't want to remove joining completely because they said initially it was going to affect all Crucible
Well,
modes
all other
and
activities, I thought.
all
Like,
other activities.
yeah.
Yeah, like it was a big thing. So, I with Teddy though, I still am about, the explanation, because the more detail you give me with that, the more, like you said, it's human nature, the more understanding I'm going to
Yeah.
be to you. But if you try to disrespect my intelligence by acting like you're so above giving me the reason why you can't explain this or the percentage or why things are operating in the way they are, then it's just we're gonna hear the bungo comments. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No.
good old bungo, here they go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, yeah. Yeah,
when
Teddy.
there's missing information, like you fill in the gaps, right? And now for
Yeah.
us as like hardcore players, we have some, as specifically, like, well, I mean, all of us have talked to them at various points, but like, there's certain things that like we just know inherently about the game or how it functions, or maybe we ask them something, and so you can kind of sometimes piece things together. But when you have that like gap in, how the how drops work in Destiny, like that's not even a thing that's ever been explained. And maybe they don't want to reveal the magic formula of RNG, whatever, right? But like, just having that, like every other MMO does it. So I don't, I it's just, to me, it's kind of weird why they don't.
They just have a different philosophy. They're very close to vest. They're very analytic driven, and for whatever reason, even when it comes down to, and trust me, I love being a sandbox update, right? But even when it comes down to the, we buffed auto rifles, but sometimes why, like how much, like what is it in relation to the specifics, like, they're very afraid sometimes to just give you what that is. And it's very interesting, what I'm saying?
There are community members who love the Fallouts, the cool guys, like the Drewskis, the deep PvP and the Mercules, the spreadsheet people. Like when you go, we can't even see all the stats on our guns.
Yeah.
You can't see the aim assist. You can't see the recoil direction. It's literally in the game, and people data mine that with like dim, light.gg, gunsmith.
Right.
It's there, but it's not like, hey, this has, like, literally if in-game is like, hey, your recoil direction's a 60. It's going to veer to the right. If you throw the counterbalance mod on there, it's going to make it vertical. If that was told in-game, the average player would understand, okay, I know why this mod makes sense. Right now, they're just like, I think it makes my gun feel better.
Right. And you know where the worst offender is, in my opinion, is they introduced this cool thing with the artifact, right? I shouldn't have to wait for a Fallout video to understand what sundering whatever is,
Glare,
right? Like, like, and then like the game, another thing, like they'll have these perks, they don't tell you how you proc it, what you have. Like, it's sometimes the very vague, generic flavor text of an explanation is just so generic that I literally got to go watch a video to truly understand. Like, even that same perk, Sundering Glare, it doesn't even tell you in game that it's procced. Like, I had to watch Fallout.
Yeah, you see the like fade on the weapon.
The fade, and I'm like, you don't even know what it's doing, and then I realized how powerful this thing is. I'm like, wow, this thing is a 20% or whatever, 30% buff from distance that, for the most part, adds on to the whole debuffing thing that we thought they stopped. Remember, they was like, hey, whatever's the strongest debuff is the one we're going to take as the highest ratio, and the other ones are going to be eliminated. They're not going to take it into account. And I'm learning like this stuff. And again, like they do, sometimes they do a horrible job of truly understanding. Yeah, I'm being nice. You know what I'm saying? But it's especially that final column where a lot of those cool, very game-defining artifact mods that go on your class thing, and you're like, yo, I don't want to invest all of this money for the Glimmer to reset the artifact, as well as the choice, right? Because you're picking all these cool things, and you want to make a good decision, and this thing doesn't really explain what it is for me to pick it, so they still got to do a way better job with explanation of these things and mechanics that they themselves are trying to introduce to get us to play.
Yeah. Rampage, you literally don't know unless you go look it up how much of a percent it adds from 1, 2, and 3 stacks. Same with multi-kill clip or anything. Nothing is told. It's just like, Rampage does more damage. how much.
Yeah.
I was like, is there intention that some of this is vague? So the average player is like, well, I get a little more damage here. This one feels pretty good. Well, multi-clip, I got to reload then however many I kill. But it's like they don't know one's up to like 50%. The other one's over here at like 7. They just know they get some more damage and it's a feel. So is it the vagaries that keep the people who aren't listening to this podcast like excited about a new weapon or I got Rampage?
Well, let's be honest. It's good for the content creators. It's good for us. Like,
I was literally going to say I honestly cannot picture Bungie making their game to say, hey, all these content creators are going to be able to dive in and figure this stuff out. Like some people literally be like, all right, I'm going to go hardcore after X weapon and do a video. And that's like, I cannot imagine that being a part of their business discussion. If it is, they are a lot nicer to the community than I thought they were. But generally, it's like, I don't think that's how they do a business. It's some choice to keep things vague. And it's like, you go and you play Outriders. I'm like, you can pull up your character screen and I know down to the decimal percentage how much more weapon life leech I got by putting something on. And I'm like, why does that stuff have to be hidden in the game? It's so strange to me.
Like it's definitely it's part of their like core philosophy of making communities, right? And then so I think some of the not explaining things comes from this idea that, oh, if we don't explain it, someone will figure it out or make a video about it, and that builds that community, and that they have their community, and that also builds the Destiny community as a whole. And I think that's just inherently baked into their business model, because Halo basically created that, right? Like Halo is what made that. So some obviously other games followed, but it took, I mean, if you really think about it, it took a really long time for other games to get that same level of interaction and cult following, if you will, where people make these like crazy videos explaining stuff. And Destiny from the very beginning was just kind of like that. So, I mean, +2 agility, like, and Destiny 1, like, what did that even mean? We didn't know what that meant for years until somebody figured out, oh, it's a 10-point scale on your in Destiny 1, and +2 just happens to give you 2 extra. But like, that is not communicated anywhere in the game at any point anywhere. Like, I think someone like did like pixel measurements or something around Taken King, but that's just like one crazy example. But there's a lot of stuff in Destiny like that. So I think that is inherently baked into the business model of Destiny, that they want, the Fallouts or the cool guys or whoever to make these elaborate videos where they explain this thing. Do I want it in the game, and could it be better? Absolutely. Like that's not even a question. But we're 7 years in. Like I'm done asking. Just
you're making a good point. It could literally be that. It just the last part I'll just say. Just the only reason why there's some frustration with me, again, I gotta keep harping on the artifact. With just these are big investments. Like that, those last 2 perk choices for me are something I really think about. I really maximize the efficiency of my build, and I don't want to make a wrong choice. And you know what it is, Teddy? I find myself resetting my goddamn artifact so many times.
It's so stupid that it costs.
And then it's so much money.
That was my Bungie, please. No, was it mine? Was it my Bungie, please? Yeah. Like let me just unlock the whole damn thing. Why not? Like you're gonna get different varieties
them all at the same time anyway.
Right.
Yeah, like, you can't equip more than 2 anyway in each column.
So it's like there's no reason not to. I might unlock, like, they're going to make you pick different, like, meta weapons for the season anyway. God forbid I get a little extra dexterity and stuff here anyway. So it's like, I still do not see why that requires. I mean, after playing Outriders, you can reset your whole damn skill tree, and I'm like, I can't reset my artifact for a few months. Come on.
Yeah.
Just or Borderlands.
Yeah.
Reset your whole tree in Borderlands.
Yeah, it's like,
why does it cost so much?
It should not be. It's a temporary thing anyway. It should not be, like, prohibitive.
Yeah. No, I agree. That was my last rant. I had to get that off.
Yeah. On a completely separate note, what are your 3 favorite Star Wars characters?
Ooh, finishing strong.
Teddy, you go first.
Or you can do 1 and 1 and bounce back and forth.
Ooh, okay.
Probably Obi-Wan at the top. I think mostly because I kind of see myself as that. Like I've just always been an old soul, and so, but he's also just a deeply flawed character, and I think that's what makes him good, but he strives to do the right thing. That's why I'm really excited for the Obi-Wan series as well. But I'd have to think about the other 2. Obi-Wan was the first one that came to my mind. Maybe I wouldn't probably not place this in any order. Just kind of.
No, that's what I was saying. Just like top 3 shots out of from the hip.
But I'd have to think about the other 2. What do you got, Travis?
Travis, what's one for you?
This is Sophie's choice.
I know. So that's the fun part.
God.
Which franchise is better? While you think, which franchise is better, Star Wars or Fast and Furious?
Oh, Star Wars.
Oh, that's not hard.
Come on,
Why
Star
is
Wars.
Fast?
That's not
Why
hard.
is Fast?
I
and
just watched all the
Furious
Fast and Furious movies like
worth
6 months
you
ago.
editing a wiki though?
Fast and Furious is okay. I'm gonna pivot. So I'll get back to Star Wars later.
This will
'cause
let
Fast
you
and
guys think. This will let you guys
Yeah,
multitask.
Fast and Furious is one of those things where Yoda do Travis.
Yeah, I know it's hilarious.
Yeah, sorry. Somebody in the
Mhm.
comments was saying Yoda. Which is a very good choice, Yoda. So Fast and Furious is fascinating to me because it's sort of it has a few different things that I think are great. One, it's got like this cast of charismatic people that like I unironically think that like Vin Diesel is one of the greatest actors of our generation. Like he just drips charisma in a way that I think is like improbable, especially coming from a guy who looks like him. I think that it's just like there's just something about him like you want to see it, and I think that cast it represents America in a lot of really important ways. One, it's like diverse, like they were one of the first franchises to have just a ton of diversity front and center. And you can see that reflected in how well they've done internationally. Their movies rake in a lot of money, not because they do, not because they do like better than anywhere else in America. It's because their international appeal, because of what the cast looks like. I think that that's hugely important, and it's kind of a reflection of something that I think is uniquely American and that I really enjoy. And then on top of that, it's got themes that I think are, you can kind of laugh at them, like the kind of silliness that Fast and Furious brings, but at its core, the thing that Fast and Furious tries to teach you, I would argue, is that doing the right thing and doing the lawful thing aren't always the same. And I think that is an important thing for people to learn. And it's from the first movie all the way on that this like civil disobedience and kind of deciding where you stand and not always standing with authority, and kind of that the way that plays, I think is important for people to learn in increasingly authoritarian, or at least like, people who are kind of being obsequious to authority. I think that that's really important to learn. There's the family thing somebody put in the comments, like that's an obvious one. And they do kind of just like say it they just say the word without, sometimes showing it, I think is one of the failings of the franchise. But the idea that these people from different walks of life who have little in common except for their creed is important. I think I've mentioned this to some of you, maybe not on the show, but like I'm a game master. I do like role playing with dice at my house once
D&D,
a month, and it's not D&D, but it's games. It's role playing games.
Is it like Roll20 type?
No, so I do like there's a Star Wars RPG where you can just create characters in the Star Wars universe and IGM that. And I also write my own RPGs, and I'm writing a Fast and Furious RPG called Ride or Die, Fast and Furious RPG, where you create characters, and it's kind of got this this really interesting mechanic where if you're bringing a new player into the group, they have to be the bad guy for their first session, because that happens in every Fast and Furious movie where the bad guy comes, and then after you beat him, they kind of join the family. And so that's like these interesting mechanics like that. And then, the other thing I love about it is that I was never into anime until I watched Fast and Furious. And
really?
Fast and Furious is an anime. It's a live action anime. It follows all the rules of anime. It has the power creep trope. If you guys are familiar with power creep, it's a term that is often used in anime for when people start off and they're just like normal, and then eventually they're Goku in God 2 form or whatever with this sparkly blue hair. Fast and Furious has that, which I just think is fascinating. I think they're the only live action example of an anime. Like it's just it's a weird, crazy thing. And it comes from, I think, the mind of Justin Lin, who I think is a genius. He's the director of Tokyo Drift, and has sort of kind of been the guy guiding the franchise on its path in modern days, and kind of directing it that way. I think that he's a genius. The way he tells stories is so unique and interesting, and something we haven't seen in movies before. And they're just not afraid to go there, and to go they kind of build trust with you, so that when in the 8th film there's a zombie army of cars flying down New York, you kind of just go, okay, fine. Like, you've earned it. Like, you've made so many films, and I like these characters, and it's kind of like to what I was saying earlier, why in sci-fi I care about the why more than the hows or the whats that you get in like hard sci-fi like Star Trek. And I think Fast and Furious really is good at putting aside the how and the what and focusing on the why. Like, why are you doing it, and what's like the human story here? And that, like, as long as you have that and you nail it, like, nothing else really matters. So I just love the like carefree style and the way that they draw from things like anime, and the morals that they try to teach you are right. And it's just, the further you dig into it, it's one of those things where I think I saw, obviously I saw all the Fast and Furious when they were out, and we were kind of watching them when we were younger. And I think when 5 came out and it was just like this unexpected heist film, and kind of really went over the top, I kind of started to dive in a little bit more. And the more I dug in, the more I was just like, this Fast and Furious thing, like, it's kind of like surface level. It's like popcorn, turn your brain off movie, right? But the deeper you go, the crazier it gets. Like, you guys probably don't know this, but there's like this crazy theory that Justin Lin has been working characters from Fast and Furious into his other movies. Justin Lin did a like indie film called Better Luck Tomorrow, and the character that plays Han is in that movie, and his character's name is Han, and he's like a chain smoker. And then in Fast and Furious, the character Han, played by the same actor, he's always eating snacks, and Giselle, Gal Gadot's character, references the fact that he's snacking all the time because he used to be like a chain smoker. So there's like these layers where the deeper you go into the wiki, you find stuff that's not strictly Fast and Furious because maybe it's part of the universe. It kind of gets weird. And there's stuff like that that's like less, like the one of the things I love about Fast and Furious, something that I bring up a lot when I talk to people about it is, sorry, I'm like cracking out right now and just kind of talking to you guys.
No, you've
been on here a couple times. I had to crack the walnut open. So.
Yeah. Ludacris is in Fast and Furious. He plays Tej Parker, and he starts to appear in the movie starting in the second film, Too Fast, Too Furious. But in the first Fast and Furious film, they're at Vin Diesel's house, at Dominic Toretto's house, and there's a house party going on. And in the party, there's a Ludacris song playing. Right. And so in that world, Ludacris is a person, and he's an artist who makes music. And then also there's a guy who looks exactly like him, and his name is Tej Parker, and no one talks or mentions, like, dude, you look an awful lot like Ludacris, the artist that apparently canonically exists in this world. And there's actually multiple examples of that in like media. Like Marvel has that problem where Samuel Jackson is in Marvel as the leader of the Avengers Initiative, but he's also in Star Wars, which is referenced in Marvel. Like Spider-Man references the Star Wars films, in Marvel. So then it's like, why does nobody go up to him and be like, dude, you look just like Samuel Jackson who played Mace Windu? Like, there's like these gray areas in film where you're like, is this meta or like,
that's a good point.
Or did the events of the Marvel universe make it so that the original Star Wars films were made, but the prequels didn't happen? And because the prequels aren't referenced, just the original films. So maybe the prequels never happened.
There's not a shovel big enough to dig you out of this rabbit hole right now.
I'm just saying, like, this is like the further you go, it's pretty crazy.
He all the way in. He all the way in.
Oh yeah. So back to my original question. Give me one Star Wars character on the top of your list.
Yeah.
You had enough time to think now.
Yeah, I think I am gonna be rather cliche and go with Yoda. I mean, it really is a Sophie's choice for me. It's really hard for me to choose these characters because each of them means a lot to me. Yeah, each of them means something to me in a completely different way. I think my favorite Star Wars character, period, better than Yoda, is Emperor Palpatine. There was something about, as a kid, seeing the Emperor appear. He was in some of the earlier films, but he really didn't show up in Force until Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. About seeing that guy and seeing the way that he exuded power. And I was scared of him as a kid, and I kind of liked that. And I think there's something to be said about like the guy holding the leash and that mastermind thing that is done so well in Star Wars. And unfortunately, Palpatine, in my opinion, is one of those characters that has become progressively less cool the longer that they've developed him. Star Wars has this like very weird slider where some characters, it's like the more you know, the cooler they are. Like Darth Maul went from being, to me, like a lot of people thought he looked cool, whatever, but just being a nothing character, they threw him away, like to being like actually legitimately having a great arc. If you want to see one Star Wars lightsaber battle that you probably haven't seen unless you're Teddy or I, that you should go watch the Darth Maul Obi-Wan lightsaber fight in Star Wars Rebels. It's like a 3-minute scene. You can find it on YouTube. And it is the single best lightsaber fight, and not for the reason you expect. It's for the exact opposite reason of why the Phantom Menace Duel of Fates lightsaber fight is great. And I'm sure Teddy can fanboy with me on that one. Like that scene is just,
that scene is so
with
so
nuance
good.
and subtext and like all these different histories, and it ends in like this perfect moment.
I'm working through Clone Wars. I'm working through Clone Wars.
Y'all selling it so much. I got to watch that.
I'm working through Clone Wars so I can watch Rebels. So
yeah, I'm with you there. I like Rebels more than Clone Wars. People make fun of me for that, but Clone Wars does a ton of like work in redeeming Darth Maul as like a character you care about. It doesn't get all the way there though. It kind of did in the more recent season that they did after Rebels, but it gets close. And then Rebels just takes it to like next level. Like Darth Maul is like a character I'm proud to have in Star Wars rather than one I was kind of ashamed of because he was just like this dumb, spike haired demon who gets sliced in half and then you don't hear from him anymore. But I would say probably Emperor Palpatine in spite of myself, because he's had the opposite effect of Darth Maul where he got less cool the longer they expanded on him. A reverse Maul, if you will. Maybe I'll coin that term.
Bro, stop trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah, right. But I still think that like what he did for the original films, for me anyway, was huge. And I think that actor's talented. He's like an over actor, but in a way where he really makes it work and owns it. And I like Palpatine.
Teddy? If he didn't steal all your thunder.
Because Yoda, the do or do not try quote is something that I like really live by. I think when I first heard that, I think it's in episode 5, right? Episode 5. It says in episode 5. And then I play a lot of Soul Calibur 4, which had Yoda in it as well. And he says that a lot in that in that game. And I don't know, to me that's like it's such a simple philosophy to have, but it's so powerful at the same time. Like if you have that mindset of trying something, you're already setting up yourself for failure. Now failure is a different topic that, I don't think failure is inherently bad, but and Yoda teaches this.
Agreed.
Failure.
The failure thing. He also did it. Ryan Johnson did it in The Last Jedi, where he talks about how I told you didn't listen to me. Pass on what you've learned, and what you've learned includes your failures. And I did comedy for like 10 years. I was a comedian like growing up, just in my neighborhood. I did stand up and improv comedy, and that's like I taught comedy for a number of years, and that's like one of the most important principles of comedy is that like failure is a learning experience. You have to fail to get better. Nobody's just good at comedy right away. You get up and you try jokes and you find out where the line is and you find out what you're good at doing and where your strengths and weaknesses are, and you get better. But like failure is instrumental in like growth, and it's something you should be proud of, and you wear every failure with a badge of honor. When I started doing like improvised comedy, I was so bad at it that my teammates called me Boo Bucket. That was my nickname because I got booed off stage so often.
Damn.
And I've been scarred, man. I went through the ringer. Like the first 2 years I did comedy, I was just awful, like just cringeworthy. I'll be like in the shower some days and I'll think of something that happened to me when I was new at comedy, and I'll have to like scream it out of my body because it gets into my brain and makes me upset. But yeah,
this episode is going to be titled "The Bottom Stamp in the Boo Bucket."
The bottom stamp in the boo bucket. This is it. But honestly, like Teddy, like there's certain people you connect with, like you just know, like Teddy, we connected really early about like the philosophy of Star Wars and the things we care about. Cog, I kind of got that with you when we first started talking, and it seems like we kind of had like similar upbringings, grew up in like neighborhoods that mirrored each other, and there's just people you connect with. And I think Star Wars is so important because it helps people connect in a way that, especially for nerds, they often have a hard time connecting in a meaningful way. And Star Wars gives them a way to do that. That I think is so
yeah.
helpful.
Like I mean, just this is like a super tangent, but like personal story. So I graduated high school in 2012, which is almost 10 years ago. But at that point, Star Wars was still not really that accepted as like this thing, right? The sequel trilogy had not even been announced at that point. I think Disney just bought Star Wars, and that was a big deal, right? And I always had a Star Wars shirt on. Everyone knew I was super nerdy, and I would say I got teased and made fun of, but I'm a pretty confident person inherently, so it didn't bother me that much. But I do remember like people, it wasn't cool to like Star Wars, and I'm not trying to like say I'm hipster and I like Star Wars before all you people, but like I was also born on Star Wars Day, so maybe I kind of do. But it's such an important thing that I think people, and they've talked about this now in recent years with, celebration and different things like that. It's such an important thing to so many people because it helps connect people and humanize things like this. The stories of Star Wars are universal, and other mediums copy that, and that's fine, right? Like it's important, right? There are certain people you just meet and you just know, right? Like as soon as we started talking, Travis, I was like, this guy gets it. Like this guy gets me, man. We're Star Wars fans.
I understand.
And same with Cog and E too. Like there's just certain people you meet and you just kind of know it. But yeah, the Yoda's my answer because like Travis said it perfectly. Like failure, and it's just a life lesson that I've learned from my parents. Like failure is just such an important lesson that you hold with you, and you learn more from failure than success. And if you can extrapolate that, then you can go far. You can make it. So
you can use the Force. And my final one will be Admiral Thrawn. That's number 3 for me.
Okay.
Admiral Thrawn. I have to go with a side character that's not like in any of the main stuff yet, although he definitely.
I was like, they mentioned him in said show.
Thrawn is like the perfect. I tend to like villains in shows. I kind of root for them. It's like a weird part of my personality.
Yeah,
I'm like, I want him to do well. Oh, by the way, Cog, we have to talk about Blood or Spartacus too, because I saw that you like that show, and that's like one of my favorites.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm writing an RPG that's like a based on ancient Rome, and it's like features like gladiators, as like the players all play like a school of gladiators that are traveling around and competing in the games and stuff. So
fire.
Some point I'm gonna have to get you guys over here to play RPGs with me, but
sure.
Yeah, Admiral Thrawn, like he's the ultimate villain because he uses his brain, and he's like the opposite of Darth Vader or like a Darth Maul, where he's not really a physical threat, but he's also not a threat in the same way that Palpatine is. Like Palpatine is very controlled, but he's a different type of danger. Like, he's dangerous even though he doesn't do it. And Thrawn is kind of like intentionally not dangerous, but he's just so good at maneuvering that like, before he even enters the room that he's like 5 days ahead of you in terms of like where he's at mentally. And I would love to see how people write for him, because it's one of those things where like I really respect people who are able to like, okay, 5 episodes ago Thrawn was already here, so we need to justify everything he does in 5 episodes so that when it gets to the end you're like, oh, like that's what he was planning to do. And the people who write him are really good at doing it. There's some like franchises that are really good at doing that, like Phoenix Wright. If any of you guys are into the Ace Attorney series, like I have no idea how they create cases in Phoenix Wright, because by the time you get to the end of the case, it's so different from where it was at the beginning that you're like, you can scarcely remember how you got there. But yeah, I'd love to see how. So yeah, Admiral Thrawn is number 3 for me.
That's a good pick. He's a good character.
Yeah, you got your third.
I'm torn between Darth Vader and Ahsoka.
Those are.
I mean, Darth Vader's like the kind of the obvious choice, but I think I like Ahsoka because she operates in the gray area, and that's sort of me. I kind of see myself as that. Like I tend to very closely walk the line with a lot of stuff, and but for good, right? Like you do it for the right reasons. I disagree
that Ahsoka is gray. I think she's actually more light side than the Jedi claim to be. I think the Jedi are gray, and I think that she doesn't fit in with the Jedi because she's so optimistic and refuses to compromise.
I thought about that actually. Yeah. I thought about that a lot, especially because of, well, I don't want to spoil it, but in the new thing that she was in recently, that kind of got that vibe. I was like, oh, I think she's ascended beyond what the previous iteration was, but that's a different topic. Yeah, I'll go with Ahsoka. Why not? Well,
Ahsoka's a
side
choice.
character.
Well, I had to do that because they were on here together. And like, if there are bro fist bumps in the world of Star Wars, these two are the epitome of that on Twitter. So Yeah.
McClunky.
I got mine. I'm a
Clunky.
Star Wars fraud, so mine's is Dinger, and I'm like, to me, he represents me. I'm late to the whole party. I was so young when my mom took me to the original. I don't remember anything as I'm old, and I was actually
Yeah.
taken to the movie theater at a young age when the original trilogy came out and all that stuff. Vague memories, so I never really connected with Star Wars that much. But my man Favreau, man, I loved. I came into Mandalorian late and begrudgingly. I was just like, I watched Star Wars. I respect it. I understand what it represents, and there's a lot of cool aspects to it. But I just never was that invested. But the Mandalorian character kind of represents me, like this outsider that's like watching all this other great stuff going around and then finding my way within the universe. And I just love the emotional connection with, almost like this parenting, kind of thing, and taking care of Grogu and all that stuff. It has some moments. It was some tearjerker. I was like, okay, I get it, and I get the fun aspect. It almost felt like a quest game, like in the beginning, like him going to try to help the child, and him going to this plan. It felt like a game, and I was like, yo, this is cool.
They actually modeled it after video game design.
Bro,
that was the thing that they did.
That's why it really resonated. I'm like, yo, this is like what's next step for the quest? Okay, what you got to do, and that kind of thing. And I hate to be disrespectful. I know you guys are lore historians, but in my opinion, that theme is one of the greatest. The Mandalorian theme song. I don't know what it does to me. It evokes pure emotion. Like I feel that co-character. So the Mandalorian for me is it's amazing. I love that. With that thing, I listened to the whole thing, the storyboard at the end with the little art and all that. Yeah. So I'm with y'all. Y'all got me. And Jon Favreau, you can thank me, the casual, for now being completely invested on where they go based on that character in that series.
So watch Clone Wars.
That's what I was told, yeah.
Because you'll have a much deeper appreciation for what happens in The Mandalorian and Rebels too. Okay. Because all three of those shows are inexplicably linked. Not because they were made by the same people, but there's so much that goes on in those shows that doesn't necessarily, it kind of affects the greater universe for Star Wars, but at the same time it also doesn't. And that it doesn't matter that it doesn't either. Like there's characters because they have so much more time to breathe and grow. And
my counterpoint, Cog, is maybe don't watch the Clone Wars. I don't think it's for everyone. I really like it, but I think it's okay if people are on the periphery of Star Wars. And personally, I think you're way too cool to watch a lot of Star Wars. It makes sense why you didn't watch it when you were a kid, because you didn't need that. Teddy and I, and actually all of us, grew up in an era where like nerds still had shame. Like now they're like proud of it. But like when I was a kid, like if you were a nerd, you got beat on, and like I got beat on bad.
That's the era.
I grew up in Oakland in the '90s. Like it was brutal.
It was
dude.
brutal.
Like,
it wasn't cool to talk about that stuff. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
absolutely. And shout out to my man Matt. Don't Master True. He out there singing the song. That chime when the chime hit, and that it's the greatest, most epic thing I've ever heard. I watched the making of it by the guy who did it. Oh my god, that thing's amazing.
I downloaded that song on Beat Saber.
Bro, that song is part of my workout when I do cardio.
Oh really? Oh my god, that's so you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna buy you like workout clothes that look like the Mando armor.
Yeah,
you just need one of those Under Armour compression like they did for Marvel, but you need the ones out of Mandalorian.
Bro, I will buy all of the merch.
And your mask is just the Mando.
No, just the Mando.
Display, yeah,
full helm.
Perfect, man. Perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll listen to Battle of the Heroes sometimes while I'm walking, which Travis knows what that is. But
great. Yeah. That's an all-time favorite.
When that plays, I'm just like,
it takes you somewhere, right?
Yeah, like
Force theme. Yeah, Dual Fates,
theme,
like
Dual Fates.
Yeah, like there's a lot of songs that you could. There's also really bad ones. To be fair, Star Wars does have a few stinkers in there, especially.
I actually like that one.
Hey,
same notes again. All right, let's go.
Yeah, I can't justify that one.
This is a good one. This is a good one.
Well, as we are at about 3 hours, I'm sure everybody has live food and other things that they've got to get to. We can wrap this thing up. But honestly, thank you both, gentlemen. One, Travis, for working with me on the logistics of the surprise. And
Oh,
Teddy,
yeah,
of
that's
course.
I mean,
21
you got me. I
He got
didn't
me. He
expect
got
that.
me. I've never been surprised by you that much. Like, you've had me fooled. I was like, yo, what's going on? It's like an Avengers. Let's go.
Yeah.
Assemble the Avengers, the Nerd
Yeah.
Avengers.
Nerd Avengers.
The Nerd Avengers. The Nerd Avengers. We've ruined it completely. But I did want to just ask you, gentlemen, just, as we wrap up the episode, anything else you guys want to say? Thoughts on Destiny, where it's at? Thoughts on if there's any other random franchise, you got a couple minutes. If just what you were working on, where people can find you. If they just want to hit you in your DMs about Star Wars. Like, Teddy, you were the OG guest, so we'll start with you, sir. The floor is yours to start.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm for the first time in a long time, I'm very optimistic about Destiny's future. Usually I'm very cautiously optimistic or even pessimistic, as most people call it. I like to think I'm a realist, but
Yeah, me too.
people see that as pessimism.
That's just what
But,
pessimists describe themselves when they're being
It'd be offensive.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
but obviously, we talked about some of it, but there's a lot going on with Destiny, and we're still in a pandemic world, and so it's the escape, right? And so it's nice to have that, and I'm glad that Bungie is still able to facilitate the game that we love. And as far as stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at TeasingTeddy. I think Ebontis has it on the stream. You can shoot your Star Wars or Destiny questions at me. I'll probably respond with some trolley gif or something, or either like a very long explanation that you definitely didn't want to read, but that's up to you.
Twit longer.
Yeah. Occasionally I post stuff for IGN here and there, but you probably never know it's me, and I'll never tell you it's me. So other than that, go ahead, Travis. I mean, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm also extremely optimistic about Destiny. I think we talked about some stuff that like I'm worried about, like the storytelling future, and if they can kind of branch out in a way where it doesn't progressively just isolate more and more people, except for the hardcore. But especially for the people who are hardcore, like it's extremely exciting. Obviously, Bungie has stuff planned. The tweets of their own employees being super excited is just so like heartwarming to me, and I think they're making a real effort in planning out the future, and we know that they're obviously doing good as a business. And I think people probably underestimate how much of a shift it was to move away from Activision, because I worked with Bungie when they were under Activision, and their just whole business was different. They had people that were instrumental to the team that stayed with Activision after the split, and hiring those resources and getting your team all on the same page takes a really long time. And I think they're probably now at a place where they really are starting to feel like they're controlling their own destiny. Definitely pun intended. I think that's really good for them, and I think it's even better for us. So I'm just really excited. You can find me on IGN.com. I post reviews, previews, articles every now and again. Am I working on a review right now? No, I'm not. So look out for one of those in the near future, I'm sure. And then you can also find me on Twitter at TieGuyTravis and on Fireteam Chat with an episode every other Friday, including this Friday. We recorded a show right before I hopped on with you guys, so that's already live.
Yep.
It's Paul, myself, and a return of the Dadstiny himself. Destin Legary makes a appearance. So that's really good. And if nothing else, if you don't care about Fireteam Chat, at least go to the YouTube video and watch the first 30 seconds, because we are starting to do cold open sketches. And that's something that we started when Destin went out, and we've decided we're going to continue to do it. So I'm playing around with the format a little bit now that I've had a chance to kind of monkey around while Destin was on paternity leave. So yeah, really excited about that. And thanks for having me on. I just want to give, before you guys do your outro, a big thank you and applause to Cog and Ebontis, because you guys are awesome. The fact that you do this show every week, even Fireteam Chat couldn't handle it every week at a certain point. Now we're doing every other week just because it's kind of brutal. Granted, we're at 595 episodes, but it's an uphill trek. This sort of stuff isn't easy. Content creation is super hard, super draining on yourselves and your personal lives, and it just takes a lot out of you. And sometimes you end up like Cog, sleeping during the day and waking up at nighttime and just having a completely unacceptable lifestyle. And I think that deserves praise and thanks. So thank you guys.
Salute, brother. Salute,
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, man. Yeah, I mean, I'll jump right in. Look, man, this is a pleasant surprise. I was already hyped for Teddy because we had to keep our tradition of 21 episodes. Teddy, you know how we do.
Yeah,
Every
it's the Easter
21
egg.
it's
It's
straight.
your podcast Easter egg.
Yeah, it's literally math. Like he brought it to my. This is how analytical Teddy. He brought that to my. He said, "You know, I've been on every exact 21 episode." I'm like, I had no
Wow.
idea about that. Like, and I
That's
looked
crazy.
at the episode history. It
It was
was
coincidence too.
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just felt that way. So when it was coming up, he was like, "You know, I got to be on," and we were like, "EV," he was like, "Yeah,
Yep,
like, we
done.
can't
All
fight."
right, so we'll schedule the next one out in 5 months. We'll see 5 months in a
Yeah.
week. We'll see you then.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it just had to happen. So salute to that, and then obviously we get the ultimate cameo, the ultimate guest character. You know what I'm saying? The new
The
challenger has
Palpatine reveal.
Yes, the reveal.
Added in post, just like McClunky itself. So carrying on the tradition.
I love the reference. A huge fan of you, man. I mean, you guys are killing it, and I loved how you took the reins. Obviously, salute to Destin doing the family thing, but you held it down, sir. I was watching the episodes. I was like, look, man, guy's talented, tremendous energy, tremendous passion. I love the synergy what you guys are doing over there, and I always appreciate the love. Yeah, man, you know me at Lord Cognito on Twitter, on Lord Podcast on Sunday. This Sunday we will have kind of up and coming content creators. His name is Assemble. Really very talented from Canada. You should check out for this guy, man. He's kind of in our space, which is like gaming, nerd culture, like gaming, movies, comics, that kind of stuff. I think he's super talented. A lot of people don't know about him, so we like to give some new up and coming content creators a shot. So check us out, and we appreciate the support. Also got to plug lordsofgaming.net. Appreciate y'all. Y'all been doing real. I mean, the love for us as a new site has been really good. Appreciate the articles and stuff like that being retweeted. And of course, that last word, man. You know how we do it. Getting back, talking that Destiny, talking that Outriders now. It seems to be picking up steam,
Yep.
and Game Pass and stuff like that. And I just want to
Seriously,
say
that was big.
yeah, huge. I mean, I've got people coming up to me asking me 1,000 questions about it. I direct them to you, you know what I'm saying, and what's going on with you. But yeah, it's just been a huge week in gaming and all that good stuff. And yeah, we appreciate the support. But yeah, this is a fun episode. We got to do more of this. I love this whole 4-panel thing. Again, it's like the Avengers, the team coming together, man. It's
Right.
fun. It's fun.
Great.
So salute, man. This is good. I like
I
it.
need to talk to you about Xbox at some point. We're both big.
Yes.
Xbox guys.
Huge. We got to talk. Definitely. I got to get you back in the realm as well at some point for sure. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can top what any of these gentlemen said. So all I can say is thank you all for being part of this fun episode. Thank you, chat.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for all of you guys that listened on audio, whether it be Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you listen. Thank you guys. If you do make it to the end somehow, I'm going to start saying this in the beginning so it actually ever hits. But if you make it to the end and you enjoy, do the review on iTunes, follow the podcast on Spotify, all that stuff always helps. Biggest thing for
If
you
you
guys.
review this episode, we will give you a resounding top stamp.
I'll give you a heartfelt McClunky.
There it is.
Nice.
But yeah, for me, Evantis, it's like if Outriders literally about 2 weeks away, so I'm gonna be definitely diving hardcore into that. Lucky enough to be ambassador, which that's kind of like free marketing for them. But honestly, it's just been kind of cool. I think for me, like it's just been cool to see the progress, and I'm happy to be part of a game that I get to be excited about. As opposed to, hey, there was one other game I applied for a code. I'm not going to say it is. I got it, and then when it came around to time to play, didn't quite have the same feel. So it's like I'm excited to be part of something that seems like it's going to have, it's not live service, but it's going to have some legs. Looks like it's got some fun, and I think it's going to be a good package. And I hope they do something like a Lords of Destruction like DLC. That's my hope. It's not planned, not announced, nothing in the books. But if it does well, I hope it continues. But for me, honestly, I'm with you guys. Destiny has me. I'm like with Teddy. I'm a realist. Like the cup's not half full or half empty. It's got 2/3 cup of water in it. I'm gonna be a realist at points. But I'm enjoying the story. It has me compelled, and I'm just hoping the gameplay continues to be enough fun, variety, and activities to get me to where hopefully the RPG, the systems, the Savathun, the Witch Queen kind of builds what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that it continues to evolve the game in the way that they want, and I'm hoping the story beats continue to be fun along the way, because I'm hoping Witch Queen is what really takes it to hopefully the next level. That's my hope. Lots of hope. I think that's the best way for me to put it. But thank you guys very much. This episode has been an absolute blast. It's a long one. Editing is going to be fun with the clip in the middle, but thanks to all of you guys for being here. Thank you, chat. Thank you, everybody. Teddy, Travis, Cog, of course, a pleasure, everybody. So for today, March 19th, episode number 141. Honestly, every time I say one of those numbers, it's crazy. It's that high. Thank you guys very much. But it has been
the last
word.
All right, so I don't have anybody to raid right now, so I'm just going to wrap up the stream. Thank you guys very much. If I do anything tomorrow, if I get everything squared away with my dog, I might be streaming Hellblade or something like that, so we'll just have to see. But other than that, you guys go follow these gentlemen. Go support LogNet. You guys are here, but go follow all of them. They're fantastic. So we'll see you guys soon. Thank you, chat. Y'all are amazing. Have a good one.
Peace.
All right, now finish our audios.
Clap, clap. Clap, clap, clap.
Yeah, you're good. You can't even hear Teddy's claps anyway, so
yeah,
you're good.
Whatever.
All right, so you can stop your recording. And then Travis, I got to get you the folder link for this episode so you can upload it.